It's a beautiful day here in Birmingham as we come to you live on Flow Sports for the first ever Gulf South Conference Football Media Day. Hello, I'm your host, Noah Frary, and I'll be with you throughout the entirety of this event. We've got an exciting lineup of information for you. We'll take a look at the preseason polls as voted on by the coaches. We'll look at the offensive and defensive teams in the Gulf South Conference. We'll talk with each one of the head coaches of the 8-member institutions. And finally, Matt Wilson will join us to talk about the exciting times in the Gulf South Conference. And before we get any further, let's jump in and look at that preseason poll. Checking in at number 8, it's a team on the rise, and the Shorter Hawks checking in with 7 points. North Greenville comes in at number 7 with 14 points in the coaches poll. Mississippi College in the 6th hole with 22 points as voted on by the coaches. West Georgia, they check in at number 5 with 26 points. West Alabama checks in at number 4 with 30 points in the coaches poll. Delta State, coached by head coach Todd Cooley, with 33 points, they come in 3rd. Valdosta State, a team that sat atop the rankings for most of last season, checks in with 45 points and 3 first-place votes. And at the top, it's the number 1 ranked team in the country and the defending national champion Argos of West Florida with 47 points. They picked up 5 first-place votes. And now let's take a look at the offensive team in the Gulf South Conference. And next, we'll take a look at the preseason all-defensive conference team. And finally, we'll take a look at the special teams as voted on by the coaches. Now that we've seen the preseason coaches polls, as well as recognize several athletes on the offensive, defensive, and special teams, we're going to step away for a moment from the UAB Hilton here in Birmingham. But when we return, I'll be joined by Delta State head coach Todd Cooley.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
Joined by Delta State head coach Todd Cooley. Todd, thanks for taking some time out of your day to be here. Todd, for those of you who don't know him, is entering his 8th season at the helm of Delta State. He became the 19th head coach in Delta State history back in January of 2013. Enters this year with a 43-32 record that I'm sure you're looking to improve on. And coach, a very talented team coming back for you. I'm sure you're excited about that.
We are really excited. Had a really good summer. Been tough to get here. You know, it's been a lot of trying times through COVID, but I'm proud of the fact that our guys have stuck together. Had a really good fall. Got a lot better this spring, and our summer has been really good. So I'm excited to get started.
Coach, you mentioned COVID, and I think that is the 1,000-pound elephant in the room.
100%.
It is obviously why we lost the 2020 season and, challenging times in the world these days. But, Coach, talk to me about what that looked like for you, your team, your staff, losing that 2020 season. And ultimately having to deal with the challenges that all of us are having to deal with at this time.
Well, we talk about all the time, control what you can control. And we talk about being response-driven versus result-driven. And it gave us a chance to put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, So here it was. The good thing about it was we weren't going through it alone. I mean, everybody in the league was going through this. So you had other coaches you could call. And for the last – I don't know how many days, it feels like we were all kind of fighting together instead of competing against one another like we normally are used to. And that's what we want to get back to. But I think it's brought our conference a lot closer together. Our coaches are a lot closer than we used to be. So there were some positives that came out of it. And like I said, we taught some life lessons. I think when we take the field September the 2nd, much like every other school in this league, we're going to, not take those days for granted.
It's funny you mentioned that. I think those of us who are in the sports realm, I think we never thought sports would disappear.
No.
It's a yearly thing. It's a yearly tradition in the fall to play football. And to see that taken away, I think was difficult for, me as a broadcaster and,
Right.
for you as a coach and the players. So now like you mentioned, let's transition and talk a little bit about your schedule. Obviously kicking things off on September 2nd. And I'm sure to you and the players, that game is going to feel a lot more special after not playing in so long.
Right. It'll be 656 days from our last contest to our first one of this year. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's at home. We play on a Thursday night, which I'm really excited about. Our first two are at home. We need those first two at home to kind of get back in the groove of things, and we're excited about that home field advantage. And then we get into the conference season, and then it gets pretty rugged from there. We travel to Carrollton, Georgia, week 3. Then we play non-conference at Jackson State, and I mean just like I said, from weeks 3 through 11, you just got to hold on.
Let's talk about that Jackson State game a little bit. I know in our conversation leading up to this, kind of I won't say rivalry game, but for the state of Mississippi, that's a big game. Talk to me about the, added emotion that goes into that contest, especially it being on the road.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I know it's going to be a big game. A lot of people are talking about it, but we've got so much work to do before we get to that week. I just feel like if we got to keep worrying about ourselves right now and responding the right way, and then when we get to that one, we won't have to say much. I mean, our players are going to be excited to go down there. Our fan base, I already know, is excited to go. So I just appreciate Jackson State being willing to play us. Very, nice of them to say, hey, yeah, we will play you, because we don't get that a lot, especially within our home state.
And then ultimately coming off of that Jackson State contest, you mentioned getting into Gulf South Conference play, and for Delta State this year, it starts with a bang. You're playing West Florida, Valdosta State. Those first 2 weeks in Gulf South Conference play.
Well, yeah, we are. And then I because of the schedule change, we actually have to go to West Georgia week 3, and that's a conference game. So, yeah, you got West Georgia, you got West Florida, and Valdosta, your first 3 conference games with Jackson State between that. So,
a tough stretch of games.
I would say tough would be might not be my adjective, but that's a pretty good one.
So we look at your schedule and we look at the games inside the Gulf South Conference, and I kind of want to lump those together because I've heard, from so many of these coaches, you guys truly believe, and I think the data backs it up, that this is perhaps, if not the best, Division II football conference in America. And really, we've seen that over the years. Any number of teams have a chance to make a run to the playoffs. Talk to me about the Gulf South Conference as a whole.
I mean, it's not perhaps, it is. It's the best conference in Division II football. It is the reason we are having to turn around and play starting next year. We're having to play another Gulf South Conference opponent because we cannot find out-of-conference Division II games. So anybody that argues, the last 4 years, there's been 4 different national champions, and we've had a Gulf South team play or win every one of those games. So, yes, there's no doubt. And I think there's other good conferences. I'm not taking away from anybody. I just know what ours is all about. And it's a shame that we can't get those out-of-conference games like we need. We have to travel so far to get them, and that's not right. And it's also a shame that we have to basically literally just scratch and claw to get Gulf South teams that have not won the Gulf South into the playoffs. I mean, it's amazing to me because once they get in, they do pretty well, So, but it's a tough league. I think it's a lot of fan support. I think it's a lot of administrative support. I think it's tremendous coaches in this league and just a lot of talent. And when you combine that all together, you're going to get some really good football. That's what we got.
And so you mentioned the word talent there, and meaning the entire league. But let's transition now and talk a little bit about some of the talent on your team. And there is a lot of talent, some returners, some first team all-conference players, a first team All-American. And it starts really at the quarterback position with Patrick Shegog. Talk to me about what he brings to your team. I know coming off of a collarbone injury. Talk to me about what it means to you guys to get him back this year.
Oh, it's he's grown so much. He's our leader on offense. He's kind of really embraced that role now. Obviously he's healthy. He's had a tremendous summer. Had a really good fall camp. Had a fall practice session during COVID, and then spring he just picked up right where he left off, and he continues to get better. And yeah, we're excited about him. I think we got to keep him healthy. We understand that. So I've been there since 2013, like you said earlier, and I've only had one season where we've been able to keep our starting quarterback started game one till the end, and that was 2014, and we won the conference that year. That's the only season we've had that. So obviously, right now it looks like Patrick comes in as our starter, and if he wins the job, he's still in camp. But if he becomes a starter, we would love to keep him healthy and finish the season in that respect. So
absolutely. And then from there in the backfield, Rico Owens,
really
Deante, those two,
right.
Combining for almost 1,200 yards in that 2019 season, really a 1-2 punch right there. Talk to me about your backfield.
No doubt. Both of them are Deion's in grad school now. Rico graduates this December. Both of them played together at Colin Community College. I'll be honest with you, at times I couldn't tell which one was in the game. Rico wears number 2, Deion wore number 5. I couldn't tell the difference. They're so similar. They're best friends. They're really good. They complement each other very well, and they're ready to roll right now. I mean, I saw them the other day, drills and in the weight room. They're in great shape, and they're ready to play.
And from there, you can't talk about quarterbacks and running backs without talking about the guys in the trenches. And you have two of the best, in Nick Millsop and Enos Claude. In the trenches there, talk to me about what they mean to your football team.
Well, I just think, Enos is the anchor, is the center. He could play guard. He's probably athletic enough to play tackle. He's kind of the spark. He makes a lot of the calls up front. Buford, Georgia, been here. This would be his 6th year now. Glad, and I think he's had a really good summer. Came back, just re-energized. Really excited about him. Nick Millsop, I think is extremely talented. I think he was a good player in 2019. If we'd have played in 2020, I think people would have seen an even better player. He just works at it, stays on his feet. Really, both of those guys are intelligent, and I'm excited about them up front.
We've all heard the moniker defense wins championships, and so now we transition to that side of the football.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't start a conversation about Delta State's defense without talking about your first-team All-American, first-team Gulf South Conference player in Junior Falk. Talk to me about his role. He was led the Gulf South Conference in interceptions in 19. Talk to me about him in the back.
I mean, he's a really smart, intelligent football player. He's got great size. He's got really good instincts. The thing that I do like that I like the most about Junior is, a lot of defensive backs tend to talk a lot during a game. Junior never says a word. He just plays the game. That's probably one of the best compliments that I think he was ever given was Brett Gillen after our game last year, or in 2019, West Alabama came up to me and said, he was on our sideline all night. I never heard him talk one time. And that, he said, but he just played phenomenal. So that's a really good compliment. He's a good player. I think that he understands situations and understands the game. And obviously we're looking for big things out of him. But, the thing I question him is when he gets all these accolades and all this is just keep being yourself. Don't try to do too much. What you do every day is what is enough.
Yeah.
So he's a good player.
Absolutely. And, now transitioning up to kind of that linebacker core and really anchored by Marvin Terry there. Had a lot of tackles back in that 2019 season, having him back this year in the middle of that linebacker core.
No question. He plays our bandit position, which is our boundary outside linebacker. We do a lot of things with him. Marvin is, I would say, the leader of our defense, the most probably vocal. Him and Zane Samuel, who I know we're going to talk about as well. But Marvin's going to speak probably more than anybody over there. I appreciate his work ethic and how he's gone about things. He's had another good summer. He knows how to practice. I don't think that can be stated enough, and other coaches probably know a little bit, knows how to practice. He's never off his feet in practice, which, he's just, that's impressive to me. He's always in position. He's always taking the extra step to get somewhere. I really enjoy being around him, and you know, I think how he decides we're going to go a lot, because like I said, he's kind of the alpha over there, and we need that. So.
And your transitions are on cue. I wanted to talk about Zane Samuel, and you mentioned him, the defensive end. 12.5 tackles last year, or in 2019, I beg your pardon, for losses. Talk to me about the role he plays in maybe hurrying up the opposing team's offense by getting into the backfield.
I think he's one of the best defensive ends in this league, which is quite a compliment, because there's some really good ones in this league year in and year out. You know, 6-year guy, was injured 1 year, and then obviously COVID. Really proud of him. Already graduated, obviously, doing well. And Zane's not a guy, he's a very likable guy, plays hard, he's got a great first step, strong, long, everything you want. But the thing that I like about him is when he speaks, people listen. You know, and he doesn't talk a lot, but it's calculated when he wants to speak, and he's not scared to speak, and he's extremely intelligent, and we're expecting big things out of him, obviously.
We've heard that moniker, speak softly and carry a big stick, and it sounds like he's the type of guy who can do that. Mm-hmm. You know, as we, now look ahead to this season, who are some players on your roster that, in the Gulf South Conference maybe we haven't seen play before? I think of, one right off the top of my head, Sherrod Page, who's going to play a role in that linebacker core, the transfer from Northern Arizona. Talk to me a little bit about him.
Right, he's going to play, he played a rover position this spring. I think he had a really good spring with us. Very competitive, made a lot of plays, which is basically like our boundary safety, and we can roll him down. He does some really good things. He's got an extremely high football IQ. So I do think that you're definitely on a guy that needs to be watched right there, and people need to know about. And obviously, we talk about it all the time. It's hard to say, hey, this newcomer is going to do something in the Gulf South. We had to talk about that just yesterday with the head coaches. You just really never know. But based on what he's done, coming in since he's been here in January, I really like him. I think he's got some ability and some leadership abilities, and I do think he's a guy that people are going to hear about this year in the Gulf South.
Let's talk about a defensive back that you're excited about, LaMarquez in the back, the transfer from Louisville, a highly recruited player out of high school, goes to Louisville and now finds his way to Delta State. Talk to me about what you're expecting out of him this year.
Yeah, we were really blessed. Obviously, LaMarquez is from Clinton, so we knew about him coming out of high school, but we're blessed to have him. I think he is starting to really hit his stride this summer. He started coming on at the end of the spring. It had been a while, when you miss a fall, he was not with us in the fall. He had signed with us, but he had to go and help his mother and do some things during COVID. Totally understandable. Came back this spring, started hitting his stride, and we feel like he's going to be a guy that's going to definitely compete, and he's going to be on the field for us. He's competing right now to be a starting free safety for us. And he's got a chance to do that, obviously, but we're excited about him. He's really young, fine young man, and doing well in school, and we're excited to have him.
And another, in that conversation that we had, I believe it was last week now, talking about Dante Myers and a receiving core at Delta State, that there's some room for growth. But bringing in Dante Myers from Presbyterian up in the Greenville, South Carolina area, my neck of the woods.
There you go.
Coming in, what are you expecting out of him this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was a really dynamic player at Presbyterian, and he's from Norcross, Georgia, in Atlanta, which – we've got a lot of connections down there. And when he got in the portal, we obviously were on top of him and wanted to get him. But Donnie is a guy that's a leader. Number one, he is leading the receiving corps right now in workouts and things like that. Got a lot of he's a little bit bigger than what you think. Everybody thinks of Donnie as just a little guy. He's really not. He weighs close to 185, 90 pounds, a bigger guy, but he's really shifty, runs great routes, and he led Presbyterian in receiving, I think. I know he had a couple of really big games there, so we're really excited about him. And like I said, he's just a fit. The thing about us, Noah, we talk about all the time, you got to be a fit at Delta State. You got to want to be there. And every guy that you've talked about is a really good fit. And they chose to be there, and they're excited to be there. And that's what means a lot to us, because not everybody can play at Delta State. It's a little different. And we're open about talking about that. We recruit a little different. We don't necessarily recruit and talk to people and tell them all the good. We tell them how it's going to be. And we're about building men, and you got to be a little bit tougher at our place, we feel like, just because of where we are. You know, the Delta, we got a saying, we do hard things better. And you just got to embrace that. And all those guys that you're talking about have embraced that, and they're really good fits, including Donnie. So really excited about it.
You got a little ahead of me there with that sell there, but I know I had asked you this question the other day. Why choose Delta State? There's going to be some athletes that are watching this that
no doubt.
You know are looking at the Gulf South Conference and saying there's 8 great football teams in this conference. Why should an athlete go to Delta State?
Well, you know, number one, I think like you just said, there's 8 great places to go play in this league. And I've got respect for this league up and down. You know, just really good coaches, really good facilities, and things like that. Look, man, if you're looking for flashy lights and you're looking for a big city life, do not come to Cleveland, Mississippi. It's not going to work out.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a place where you can go and invest in yourself and come to a family atmosphere where people are going to love you and care about you, and they're going to love you tough, and they're going to make you better, and you bring your tail to Cleveland, Mississippi, and you get better. We've graduated 145 young men since I've been there. Nobody can touch us academically in this entire league. Our kids, our young men go out and get jobs and they succeed, and we continue to coach them once they're out of here. We got relationships and we build them, and we're not perfect, but you will grow. You will grow as a man, and I think that's the number one thing we have to do, and that's the thing that I tell every mom and daddy that I'm recruiting their young man. That's the thing I tell every recruit. You will grow as a man. You will get better, because growth is optional. Change is inevitable. If you want to grow, you'll come to us. If you don't, go somewhere else. But just remember, growing is tough. It's not supposed to be easy. College football is not supposed to be easy. I think everybody wants the easy way out, and we've opened that up with the transfer portal. Everybody can just take the easy way out.
Yeah.
Everybody can just pick up their ball and go somewhere else, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. We just believe in a few certain things at Delta State, and that's why I love it. We're allowed to be it's just a bunch of caring people. They love one another, and it's a blue-collar mentality, and that's what I love about it.
Hey, some great people over at Delta State. And, you know, we started this interview talking about the excitement of getting back to playing. And let's end it there, Coach.
Sure.
What are you most excited about in terms of getting back on the football field in 2021?
Meeting with my team, having team meetings, being able to, you know, there's a saying in coaching, you don't get the team you want, you get the team you build. I'm excited about building this team. You know, and a lot of it's already been built and the culture's there and things like that, but every team is different every year. Didn't get to build a team in 2020 that got to go play. It was a different thing. We're still building a team. We didn't get to go show what we got. I mean, I miss Saturdays, man. I miss that feeling on Friday night in a team meeting, and I miss Saturday mornings when you're waking up and you know you got a game that day. I miss that. You know, that's what we do this for, is for the competition, you know. Along with some other things that are very satisfying in this line of work, but I'll miss that. It's coming back, though.
It is coming back, and we're excited about that here inside the Gulf South Conference. Coach, I want to thank you for taking some time to sit down and talk today. I've enjoyed it, and looking forward to watching some Delta State football this upcoming fall.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a break now and step away from the UAB Hilton here in Birmingham, a tongue twister there. And when we come back, we'll be joined by head coach John Bland of Mississippi College to talk about what to expect from the Choctaws this year.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
The fun continues here in Birmingham, and now joined by our second coach of the day, the coach of Mississippi College, Coach John Bland. Coach, thanks for taking some time out of your day.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Excited for this event and to talk to you, Coach. I think the Mississippi College, the Choctaws, one of those teams that's on the rise. You mentioned you were transitioned from D3, and there was a lot of 8th place finishes in the Gulf South Conference, but middle of the pack last year. And I think looking at your team, your schedule, a chance to perhaps make a mighty leap forward this year.
You bet. You know, this that transition, I can blame it on that. All it is. It is what it is, though. It took some time, and to get the players to match up, at least in this league, is very difficult. So it took a little time, and I feel like we're right now toe-to-toe with everybody, which is good, in this league especially. And hopefully we will have some even better results this year.
And for those of you who don't know Coach John Bland, he's entering his 7th season at the helm of the Choctaws, and he has had a very successful run as a head coach. I believe 90 wins for you in your career as a head coach, and also a very successful career at the University of Arkansas as a quarterback, and playing 4 seasons there, multiple bowl victories, captain there, coach. So now transitioning to talk about Mississippi College. It could be an exciting year this year. You guys finished 5-5, as we mentioned, middle of the pack last year. But first, let's talk about the lost season in 2020. A difficult loss for all of us not to play football, I think, and especially even more so for the coaches and the athletes. Talk to me about the challenges that this ongoing pandemic presented to you and your team.
Well, it's been a challenge for everyone, as not just sports, but everyone in the world. And one of the things that we found, though, that may have been most disappointing, or one of the things that was very disappointing, was when you turn on the TV on Saturday, you're watching football. It wasn't the people in the stands. You go to high school games, at least in Mississippi, where I went to watch high school football, and Division II was one of those levels that didn't get to participate. And that was hard to take, and not just for the coach, but the coach has to explain it to the players, and it was depressing, and it was very difficult. But our guys have really, and it's hard to come together to build a locker room, to the things that you talk about. It's very difficult to do that when you can't get in the locker room, not actually get in there, and you're trying to teach the kids and tell the young men to stay apart, don't get close, wear your mask. And it's really hard to build a team. It's really hard to build one heartbeat, all the things that are going on, especially with the pandemic, but all the other things on top of that, transfer portal and who's leaving and who's staying. It's very difficult. But I feel like our players, the ones who are here, are really bought in and excited, probably more so than ever before, which will hopefully benefit. We just got to get to practicing and see how we look on the field.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things I came away impressed with in our conversation last week leading up to this, but was the family atmosphere you guys try to create. And I think I'll use this as a moment now to give your wife a shout out, someone who I know, every good coach has a good wife behind him. And I know your wife is very involved in the program. She loves being on the sidelines, snapping pictures and sending them to families. Talk to me about the role she plays and that family atmosphere you guys are trying to create at Mississippi College.
Well, she's I think she's the best wife of all of them. And of course, she is for me, for sure. And but in this league, she's in our team, wherever I'm coaching, it doesn't matter. But she is involved, and she is out there for the kids and for their parents, to be honest with you. Because, this is not high school. This is not where they can come watch practice. So they're seeing their young man's picture online, on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is. She's sending them out and just trying to get a new shot each day. She's not the sports information director, but they can only do so many things.
Yeah.
And it's good when it comes from her too. It's like a mom away from home, and she's does an awesome job. And I think our players really appreciate that.
And I think another thing, we mentioned the challenges that COVID presented, but I was impressed that you guys used your time wisely. And I think one of the things, and I know it personally affected me, was some of the hurricanes that we've had this past year. And I know you had mentioned some relief that you and your football team had helped put together. And it wasn't even coaches driven, it was players driven. Talk to me about how impressed you were with your group of guys because of that.
You bet. All we did was organize it. And but the kids came to us, and some guys from an area that had been affected. We're in Alabama, and they said, we need to help if we can, Coach. And that's all it took. And I think they started raising money and getting goods and some things that we could take, and took it to the local church over there, and it was all headed up really by about 4 kids on our team, and had a lot of kids involved in the fundraiser, not really the fundraiser, but getting the items to take over there. It was more than just 4. It was pretty much everybody on our team. But it was good to see, really good to see. And that's not just at Mississippi College. Although Mississippi College is a Christian school, and serving others is part of our mission, it's kind of an expected there. And so you kind of know what type of kid you got when you recruit. That's when you talk about family and things like that. Not saying there's not good kids everywhere we play in every school in the country, but we that's part of our recruiting process. you know, and that's one of the things we feel like is really important to us is we want good players. We want guys who can run and catch and pass in the classroom, but we want good people. And we want guys who will who you can count on a daily basis. And the community service thing is just one of those things that type of people I want to be around. And they don't have to make them do it. They want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's big.
Well, Coach, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's talk some football.
Yes.
I know you've been waiting for it, Gulf South Conference fans. I've been waiting for it. So let's talk some football, and let's start with your schedule this year.
It's brutal.
In our conversation, I was going to mention that. You said you sent your schedule to a friend, and the word back was your schedule is brutal. You used that word. Talk to me about the schedule. It all starts at the beginning of September against Albany State. Yeah,
well, Albany State, you know, has played in their conference championship the past couple of years and is traditionally one of the best teams in their league. They got a great coaching staff. They're going to be physical and fast, and they're going to be ready. They've competed. They're not afraid of the Gulf South Conference. I know that. And that has happened to me. You know, trying to find games outside of our conference has been very, very difficult. And not because we're Mississippi College, you know, because we just transitioned from Division III not too long ago. But because we're in the Gulf South Conference, it's tough to get a game, and it's kind of crazy. But Albany State is no problem. They will play, and they can win in this league as well. So we'll have to really play and be at our best early on. It'll be on a Thursday night, which will be good. Then we have Fort Lauderdale, a new team that is just starting. We'll be playing them in our second game, and with a off week in between, and then we start the Gulf South Conference play, and that's the part that really gets brutal.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute, but Coach, let me ask you this question. How excited are you to be back on the sidelines and hear the roar of the fans down in Clinton, Mississippi?
Well, we'll be really excited because that was the best thing about 2019, and hopefully we can do it again because we've got really the ones that ended up on top of the league in 19 are all coming to us. And we had a great run at home in 2019. Now, we hadn't played in 2 years, so I was hoping to take that momentum into the next year, but some things happened, obviously. So we're going to have to, hopefully we'll keep that tradition up of playing well at home and also pick up the slack that we left on the road. That's what we got to do. But it is going to be really good to see those fans. And that's something that I know we're not out of the water yet. There's going to be a challenge still ahead with COVID. It's not gone, but that's something I hope everybody takes very serious, and we can get through this a little better than the last go around.
Absolutely, and we mentioned the term brutal in terms of your schedule earlier on, and now we kind of transition to the part of that probably is the most brutal, and that is the Gulf South Conference. And even this year, a couple teams doubling up opponents. I know you guys will play West Alabama twice. But Coach, let's talk about that Gulf South Conference and the challenge that it presents on a weekly basis.
Man, you know, there's when you're trying to schedule games, you obviously want to get some that is not quite as tough outside of the conference, because you know when you get to our conference play, there is not an off week. You are going to be playing, and you're going to be playing one of the best teams in the country. You just look around. Since I've been here, the 6 years I've been here, we've had a team in the semifinals of the national playoff. Every year we've had a team, I believe, 4 years out of the 6 in the national championship, and we've had a team that won it twice. And I'm not going to speak for West Florida, but you know, they've never won the Gulf South Conference, and they've won the national championship. The conference is so tough.
Yeah,
that proves how tough it is right there. The best team in the country was second in the conference, and they made it to the national championship another time, and they were 4th, I think. It is just tough every week, and that's the type of teams, you know, when you're trying to. That's the difficulty of going Division III to Division II in this league. Wow, it's like a non-scholarship team joining the SEC. How long is it going to take to get where you can go toe-to-toe?
I believe it, yeah.
That's difficult.
So if we talk about your Gulf South Conference schedule, if there was one silver lining, it's that you get to play West Florida and Valdosta State at home this year. Talk to me about the excitement of playing some of the best teams in not only the conference, but in the nation at home in front of your fans.
There's no doubt. And not just at home, but also they've got to come on the road. And it's not easy to go on the road. It is. You've got to get everything, the organization that it goes into, especially with COVID, getting on the bus, getting your seating charts and all the kind of things that go into that. It's more of a challenge, and so that'll be easier for us. And hopefully we'll be playing our best. That's what it'll take. But it will be a benefit to us. No, there's no doubt about it. We got a homecoming, too. There's homecoming. Who do you pick?
True.
They ask me that all the time. Why do you want this bunch for homecoming? Well, it's one of the two national champions in the last 18 and 19. Which one do you want?
It's supposed to be an easy game, right, Coach?
It doesn't happen. It's not one. It's all conference. So it's tough.
Coach, you guys have 10 games this season, coming off a 5-5 season back in 19. What are realistic expectations this year for Mississippi College in terms of record, in terms of what you're looking to see out of your team?
Of course, every coach in this league, and I believe this is saying to their team, you plan on winning every game. And I think we can. Mm-hmm. I think we're capable of winning every week. And I think we've, in 2019 at least, now we don't want to talk just about 19, but it was part of the building process. 2019, I think, felt like we could have won just about every game. Now, we didn't play as well versus Valdosta, out at Valdosta, but we were in every other game that we played. And I think that's what our goal is to do again. Be in every game, have a chance to win, if not win every football game.
And now I think, we can do all the talking we want, but it ultimately is going to come down to the players inside those lines. So let's kind of transition and talk about some players on your roster that you're excited about. And it all starts at the quarterback position. Yes. Deante Smith-Moore, the backup in 19, a dual threat quarterback. And with the offense you guys run, that's important. So talk to me about what you're expecting out of him this year.
Right. We're running the triple option. Everybody knows that. We're probably the one offense that everybody knows. Mississippi College runs the triple option. And it is unique to the nation, really, but to our conference for sure. And Deante, is coming in with some experience running that triple option. He did a little bit in high school, too. He's from Cincinnati. But also, he's got some experience in this league. He's got some experience against this type of competition. So it will benefit him. I think obviously going to need to have more than just Deante. We've got another kid that's going to play as well, probably Titus Hurd. And both those guys being an offense where you're not, I know you can get hurt if you're a drop back passer, but if you're going to run the football some, you're going to throw it, you're going to distribute the football in more, physical ways, and you're going to be, you have a chance to get hurt or banged up. You'll need more than one QB. So that's something we've got to teach our QBs too. We're not running over people. We're not the fullback. We're not trying just to mash everybody, but they need to be shifty, but they need to be able to move the chains and keep the football and keep some of these powerful offenses off the field. That's part of what his job will be.
Mm-hmm. And, when you run a triple option, I think one of the most important positions is the running back position, that fullback position.
No doubt.
And you have a very good one in Jalen Jones, rushed for nearly 400 yards in 19, played in 9 games.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the difference he's going to make this year.
Well, he's a really good player, and he'll be a senior for us. And Jalen is obviously a really, really talented runner. He can also catch the football. We're going to put him a lot of places on the field and not just at fullback. And we've got some other guys. I know that some that we'll talk about maybe in a little bit that have just joined our team, but we've got some talented fullbacks. That's one of the things about running this offense and recruiting. Coaches sometimes call a specific offense. You got a run and shoot quarterback. You got an air raid quarterback. Hey, I'm calling the place in colleges that run the air raid. And but if I have a fullback that can really run this triple option, I want to get in touch with Mississippi College at the Division II level. So that's helped us a little bit, finding running backs that fit our style. And we've got a couple of them there, not just Jalen. So we'll, again, very similar to the quarterback. You need more than one because you're getting hit by those defensive linemen, and it is physical. But we've also got some offense that is not just, ground and pound. And it's a little misconception, but we're physical, but we're distributing the football just like a spread offense. Just we're pitching it instead of throwing it.
Yeah.
It's the only difference.
Every good, offense like this, you have to start the conversation at offensive line, though. Blaine Cannon, Matt Tolles on your team. Specifically, Matt Tolles coming off an injury.
Yes.
But needing good play out of that offensive line position this year.
No doubt. And I feel like, really, to be honest with you, we are better in our offensive line than we've ever been. We've had some good players in the past. Don't get me wrong. We've had really good players, but we have probably more this year, and we're deeper and faster, really able to fit into this offensive style better than we've ever been. So I'm really excited about those two guys. Are just two that are experienced. They're physical, they're fast, and hopefully we can keep them injury-free. Like you said, those things happen. If we do that, I think we'll be pretty solid.
Let's talk some defense, Coach, and it all starts up front. Fred Walls on the defensive line.
Yes, very talented.
Talk to me about him and what he brings to your defense.
He's explosive. This kid is, has played linebacker. He started off at East Mississippi, went to Memphis, and then has been here since for 3 years now. But Fred is a talented kid. He's got great speed. He's powerful. He's strong, and a really good student. I mean, just a good leader. He's pretty quiet, but he leads by example, and which is probably the best leader. Everybody wants to watch those guys and see how do I get in his shoes? How do I play like Fred? And watching him is the best way. You don't want a guy who talks a lot and doesn't do a whole lot of work. Fred is that. He's the guy that works. And so I'm excited to see him in his senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll do great things for us.
And then at that linebacker core, and someone maybe who is a little bit more vocal in Jonathan Jones.
He is.
A second-team All-Gulf South Conference player back in 19, getting him back on defense. Talk to me about the role he plays in the center of that defense for you.
Well, he's made a lot of plays for us in 2019. He's all over the field, making big plays. He's explosive. He's a smart young man. He's graduated, and a lot of these kids, we're going to run into that a lot, graduating and in graduate school. It's going to go on for several years, but Jonathan is going to be an impact player for us and an impact player in this league as well. So we're excited about him and the whole linebacking core, but he's going to be the leader.
And going up against some of these very talented offenses in the league, you need to talk about the secondary. And in the back, you have Josh Miller
Yes.
at the safety position. Talk to me about his play and how important that is when you're going up against some of these offenses. I think of the West Floridas, the Valdostas, who
Yes.
love to air it out.
No doubt about it. And Josh is probably our best leader on defense. So, and being at a safety spot, that's probably a good place to have it because he's right there behind. Now, he is vocal, but he's not overly too much. He knows when and when not to speak, and to really get in somebody's face and say, look, let's pick it up, or that kind of thing, those type of things. But he is a worker, and I've never seen a kid work so hard over this past 2 years or year and a half, waiting for this opportunity. When some you wondered if they're going to come back or they're going to graduate and move on, there was no hesitation with Josh. He wanted to play football. He wanted to get this senior year in, and really excited for him to see him play well.
And as we kind of transition into this next segment to talk about top newcomers, I've heard multiple coaches say it's kind of a wild card. You never really know, but I think one of the first ones that I want to talk about, Cole Fagan, someone who has been there and done that at the Division I level at Air Force, and a good running back, nearly 1,000 yards. Talk to me about how he's going to play a role in that offense.
Well, he's definitely a good football player, and especially for this offense, he's going to be a load, and we'll see how he does. I know that he's excited to get back on the field, and he's held records there at Air Force for single game rushing records and things like that. So he's capable for sure. We want to keep him healthy, and see what he can do in this league. I think we'll see some really good things though.
Another good newcomer for you, or at least we hope will be Braxton Hall at that defensive back position. Had a couple of tackles in that game against Tarleton State last year,
right.
But stepping into that defense, talk to me about the role he could play this year.
Right. That spring season when we got to see him for the first time, really, we've seen him in practice, but he is explosive. He's fast, a really good young man, got a great family, and Braxton is I'm expecting him to do really well. All these guys I'm talking about, man, I just keep thinking if we can keep these guys healthy, that's so big. And in football, you sometimes it doesn't work that way. But if we can, I think we'll have a really, really good season. You're exciting me about all these guys, bringing these guys up. Braxton is going to be one of those that everybody will know his name by the end of the season.
Hey, if you're excited, I'm excited. And one of the last ones, and definitely there's more that we could talk about.
Yes.
There's a lot of talented players, but Dedrick Smith on that offensive line, another key player, the transfer. Talk to me about the role he could play on, further solidifying that core of players.
Right, Dedrick is a guy that when he played in the junior college, You got me?
Mm-hmm.
They played in this offense. They played in this offense at Southwest. So we've seen him do it before. And the kid can run. He can get up on linebackers. You know, our offensive line is not just about mashing and going right at the defensive line. We do that too. We come off low and hard, but they're running and their linebacker speed. That's what Blaine Cannon is. That's what Matt Tolles is. Matt's a bigger kid, but he's fast. Dedrick is fast. He's going to fit in so good with this style of offense. So I think that'll make a big, big difference, being able to have kids that are physical enough to block on the D-line, but fast enough to run and cut off linebackers and keep them from getting on the edge.
Coach, now that we've talked about some players, here's your chance to sell your program. Obviously, a very talented Gulf South Conference. There's probably some players, recruits watching this and saying, who should I choose? Coach, why should a recruit choose Mississippi College?
Well, I try to say this. I use the Gulf South Conference as part of our recruiting tool. So I probably help out other teams as well and will right now. But that's one of the things we talk about. When you say you choose a school, you would like to have one, a great education. And I don't think you can beat that at Mississippi College. There's no doubt. If that's really important, you want to choose something for your education, then Mississippi College would be number one. And I feel strongly about that. Number two is football, which some people, even I might say sometimes, number one is football. Because they're both important.
Yeah.
They're both important. Just like when I went to school. Back when we were talking about Arkansas, when I went to school. I went there because of the education, but I also went there because of football. I was content. I was happy. I'm happy playing. If a kid is happy at Mississippi College, he loves football. He loves being around the type of people that we have. That's our best selling point, the people. So if he gets there and he loves Mississippi College and he's getting a great education, that's where he needs to be.
Well, absolutely, Coach. Coach, it's been great talking to you. As we mentioned early on, I'm excited for what Mississippi College has coming back, and even now looking to take that next step after that successful season in 19. So, best of luck to you, and excited to see what's next. And for those of you watching, we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we're going to get to talk with another team that was in the middle of the pack in 2019, but another team that could make a leap forward in North Greenville and head coach Jeff Farrington. So make sure you stick around. We'll be back in a couple of moments.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
As we welcome you back now to Gulf South Conference Football Media Day, may I add the first of its kind, joined now by head coach Jeff Farrington at North Greenville. Coach, thanks for taking some time out of your day.
Thank you for having us. We're glad to be here.
And for those of you who don't know Coach Farrington, he's entering his 8th playing season. We had to make that notation prior to this interview, with the lost season in 2020. He has been there now for 8 playing seasons. He spent 9 years at Furman and also spent a lot of time at the Division I level, bouncing around at Furman, Mercer, Virginia Military Institute. Did I miss any there, Coach?
Yeah, I don't want to give away my age, so we're not going to continue to go through the list.
And we'll get to this later, but he also, back in his playing days, was a defensive back at the Citadel, a team that you'll play this year, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But, Coach, first of all, let's just start with the 1,000-pound elephant in the room, the COVID year. We lost 2020 due to COVID. Talk to me about the challenges that presented North Greenville, your university, your players, your coaching staff.
Well, I think when you reflect back, there's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. In our profession, we live by seasons. Whether you're a student athlete or whether you're a coach, you're involved with athletics. So it was quite challenging. And, you had to get up every day and find the positives and really keep your attitude in check. You are the leader of your program. You're not only blessed to be a husband and be a father, and you have a family, but you're a leader on campus. And we're not promised anything. We have adversity, we have different things that we have to go through. So For me personally, that was kind of the challenge that I decided the attitude to look at it, and we tried to influence our coaching staff to be able to understand that we're there for those student athletes and the people that come in contact with us every day, whether they're coming through the offices to go to the training room or have an opportunity to get a few in the strength facility, but we just want to be a positive influence in an uplifting way that things are going to be okay. This will pass in time. We've got certain things that we've got to take care of and that we have to do, and let's find a way to get it done and adjust and improvise and be the best we can. And that's what we tried to do. I'm not going to sit there and say that we like it or we did like it. Or we agreed with everything, but we tried to make the best of a difficult situation and look at the positives and continue to move forward.
Coach, 3-7 season in 2019, and coming into this year, some key contributors that you lost, including the Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. We'll talk about some players in a moment, but let's talk about your schedule this year. Talk about the excitement of getting back on the football field against Limestone. That game going to take place at home. What's that going to be like for you and your guys?
Well, it's going to be really special, and I'm sure it will be for Limestone as well for both programs. You got a GSC program in ourselves and South Atlantic Conference program in Limestone, and we're less than an hour away. And we'll get to kick it off 7 o'clock September the 4th at our place. And so it just gives you a sense of this is what we do, and this is what we've been preparing for. And so now you have a little light at the end of the tunnel and you have a little bit of direction. So the excitement is immeasurable, you might say.
And then following that game, you guys will take on a Newberry team, an in-state team. I know 3 of the first 4 teams, I believe, that you guys play are in-state teams. Talk to me about that game and, the excitement of getting on the road for the first time.
Yeah, well, we go way back with Newberry, and they are down the road an hour in a different direction in the state. So anytime that we can get some non-conference games that are close to us, we do have several opportunities if the schedules match up to schedule some of those opponents. We try to take advantage. A lot of our roster is made up from South Carolina guys. A lot of their team's rosters are the same. So just that in-state rival and local localities and locations for our fan base and their fan base, it works out really good.
Coach, you mentioned the excitement of playing that Newberry game, but now heading down south and really down south in the state of South Carolina to take on Citadel, a team that you have some added connection with, having played at Citadel back in the day, a while back in the day. But Coach, talk to me about the excitement for your guys to get an opportunity to take on a D1 college. I know it's something you and your staff try to do almost yearly.
Yeah, it's an awesome opportunity for our guys to play FCS opponent and out of Southern Conference. Citadel was going to be a tough challenge for us, but one that we welcome and be a good trip for us. Go down there, get a chance to get our team in front of theirs and see how we match up. They're a triple option, which will pay benefits for us when we face Mississippi College, hopefully. So we have faced that one time before we have to get a conference game against it. So, that's an awesome opportunity for them and our fan base to go to Charleston and play the Citadel.
And now, after that game, you guys take on Erskine, but we'll kind of transition into talking about the Gulf South Conference, Coach. And, I mentioned the 3-7 record earlier, but I think you and me have both agreed that if we took a look at some of those games, that record could have been very different very easily. Some very close games that you guys played in, especially against the Valdostas, the West Floridas. Coach, talk to me about the Gulf South Conference and the challenge that presents on a yearly basis to you and your staff.
Well, I think when you bring up the Gulf South Conference and the sport of football, I think nationally, not only regionally throughout the Southeast, but nationally, the Gulf South Conference, you can go back many years, is very well respected as the top, if not one of the top, consistently Division II football conferences in the nation. Teams have advanced into the playoff system, whether they've won the conference or not, and been able to advance all the way to the national championship, many winning it, many coming up a little bit short but playing for it. So, and that goes way back. So when you look at GSC football, you look at our schedule, it is tough. And you think of GSC, you're going to think well-coached football teams. You're going to think of excellent athletes. Everybody has speed. Everybody has excellent players. They run great schemes. They're going to be first-class programs, and it's going to be four-quarter ball games. And so it presents a challenge for us. But in our business, you want to play the best. You want to have that challenge. We're trying to elevate our program up to the standards that it needs to be, where we can consistently compete with some of the programs, if not all the programs in the conference.
And let's, round out our conversation on the Gulf South Conference, that final game of the year at home against Shorter, a game that was a dogfight back in 2019. The excitement of playing that game at home and matching up against Coach Zach Morrison, the Shorter Hawks, who I'll get to talk to in a couple minutes.
Right.
But talk to me about that matchup.
Well, it'll be interesting. Of course, you might think you know your football team, but once you start going through the season, once you get into different situations, and once you've got the early part of the season, the mid-season, and then the end of the season of the regular season. So who knows? I know that their program is improving. I know they're working like us. They're wanting to establish themselves in this conference and be able to climb the ladder, so to speak. So every week is approached the same way for us. Every game is important. We have an opportunity to play, whether it's the first game, a non-conference opponent, and it's the last game, a conference opponent.
Let's transition now and talk about some players that we're excited about. We'll kind of first hit on some returning players. I know I mentioned early on some losses. I think of Chauncey Haney, a Defensive Player of the Year back in 19, not returning. But, Coach, let's start at the running back position. Dre Williams, Samaj Lakin, a couple of players I know you and your staff are excited about.
We are. We're excited to have Dre back and his ability to put the ball in his hands. He's got some ability to take the ball the distance, we feel like, at different times. He's got good hands. He's got a high football IQ. So we're excited to have a healthy Dre Williams back. Samaj Lakin has had a role on this football team for a few years now, and a very tough-minded individual, picks up hard yards for us, straight ahead kind of runner, brings us depth at the running back position. So we're excited about having those two. We feel like we want to be able to make strides in our running game. Obviously, in today's game, you've got to be good at all phases. And that's one phase that we've spent a lot of time on when we've been able to. And we feel like we're continuing to grow in this conference to be able to compete in that part of the game.
Coach, I know there's been a quarterback battle for you guys, and we'll get to that in a moment, but those gunslingers, per se, going to get to throw to some good targets this year, and Matthew Martin and Joshua Edwards. Talk to me about the role that they'll play this year out on that wide receiver position.
Well, we've got some experience coming back, and we have an opportunity to get Christian Bruce back, who we missed all of 19. He was injured game one. We never got him back. So Christian Bruce will be back for us at the wide receiver position. We welcome him. He's got a big catch radius, has ability to help us with some matchups. Matthew Martin will be back his last season, has played multiple snaps for us now, has the ability to stretch the field. And Joshua Edwards, who has played in different roles for us at wide receiver. So we're glad to have all three of those guys back and what they can bring some consistency for us at that position.
The next player is on that offensive line, and Coach, in that conversation, you mentioned the importance for your football team to win up front, and it all starts with Dalton Mckittrick up front. Talk to me about his play on the offensive line.
Well, it does. Dalton's played a lot of snaps in this conference now for 2 years. is a leader for our football team. He's a leader for our offensive line. So we feel good about Dalton. We like his work ethic. We like his want to, his aggressiveness. So he is leading the charge with our offensive line along with Elijah Lipscomb and Jonathan Holton. So, we feel like those guys give us that core. Do we need some more to continue to make progress and be able to give us 7 guys weekly? Yes, we do. But we feel good about those 3 core coming back for us with a lot of snaps led by Dalton.
I know you being a defensive player in football, there's obviously you enjoy the defensive part of the game. Talk to me about Cameron Payne and Eddie Martin, the 2 linebackers for you guys, and the role they'll play.
Well, Cameron was hurt for a big part of the season last season. So Cam plays outside linebacker for us. He's healthy now. We want to get him back and hopefully have him as a consistent defender for us and be on the field. That was much missed. Eddie has played multiple snaps for us at inside linebacker, brings a lot of leadership to our football team and our defense. And we are counting on him to be the leader of our defense and be able to he understands what we do, be able to communicate and kind of set the tone and also manage things for us. So there'll be a lot of responsibility put on Eddie this year.
I've talked to all the coaches in the Gulf South Conference, and one of the keys to success they all mention is durability. And the next player that I'm going to mention, Aaron Watson, on your team, I think that's a word that can describe him, durable. He's played in 29 games over the last 3 years, kind of the anchor for that defensive back position group. Talk to me about him.
Well, having Aaron back is a huge benefit for us. He is an unbelievable competitor, one of the most competitive people that I've been around since his freshman year on, and he does not like to lose a snap, and he always answers the bell. He has gone out there and put himself on the line time after time after time against some of the best in this conference and some of the best in Division II football, and made a lot of big plays for us. And a lot of times at playing his position, when you're noticed and you have a reputation and the ball's not going to your side, when you're noticed, that's not a good thing. And so he goes out there and does his job. He's not real big. He throws his body around. He'll tackle, he'll defend, and he'll play special teams. So we're excited to have him back. He provides some leadership for us on the back end, which is, week to week, play to play. You never know what's going to happen. You're going to give up a play every now and then. But he provides that for our football team and our guys back there, just that consistency and that calming factor.
Coach, as we transition to the next section, talking about some top newcomers on your team, the conversation has to start with Kalen Riley, as you've kind of mentioned, starting to maybe pull ahead just a little bit, maybe the presumptive starter quarterback this year, the transfer from Mercer. Talk to me about the role he's going to have to play this year for a team that, you guys are still searching for that right quarterback right now.
Yeah, we have Kalen that had a great spring for us. Now, we rotated our quarterbacks throughout the spring. Kalen won the job in the spring. We'll move into preseason camp. He'll be our starting quarterback. So Bryce Fields is returning. That started for 2 games for us in 2019 and coming off a wrist injury, is fully healed from that. But Kalen has won the job right now at this time. And so we're excited about him. We're excited where we feel like our offense can continue to develop and continue to move. He has shown very good leadership abilities, has fit in well with our team, and is a very hungry football player, we believe, right now.
Coach, you love to get the tight ends involved in your offense, and Andrew Yates is a top newcomer on my list. He's coming in at the tight end position and will play some snaps this year. Talk to me about him.
Andrew, we're excited to have Andrew. And Andrew thought his football days were over, came in, COVID year hit, so he's getting to play his fall this year. He's going to bring us the ability to have 2 tight ends out there on the football field to go along with Logan Bird, who got moved in 19 to tight end and really played a little bit in 19 and showed what he could do, had a good off season and good spring. We're excited about him. But Andrew really had a good spring and showed that he's going to be able to contribute quite a bit with Logan at that tight end position. That's a very valuable position for us. We play, they'll attach, they'll split out, they're in the backfield, so they've got to know our offense and know everything that we do.
Yeah. Coach, we've mentioned in this conversation the losses of players not coming back. And especially I think that becomes obvious on defense. If my count was correct, your top 8 tacklers are not back. Talk to me about Mike Norman, Chris Evans, some guys that are going to need to step up on defense.
Well, we are, obviously losing Chauncey on the defensive line, and we do have some returners defensive line. We've got to have show some leadership capabilities and move forward. Mike Norman has come in, was going to play the 20 season, but due to COVID, there again, he's going to get his season this year, transfer from Coastal Carolina, and showed some things that he could do in the spring, has worked really hard in the summer, and we're excited to see where it might lead in the fall.
Absolutely.
And big guy can run and hopefully provide some competition for us up front. Chris Evans also came in the summer. Chris was a linebacker, outside linebacker, inside linebacker at Coastal. Has 2 years, will be in our grad program. We feel like he can bring some ability to us as far as that outside linebacker. And our defense, being a 3-4 of those outside linebackers are critical for us from a playmaking standpoint.
Coach, in this next position player that I want to mention, they often go unnoticed on a football field, but they're very important, and that's your kicker, Miles Prosser, coming in, a punter kicker. Talk to me about the role he's going to have to play this year.
Well, Miles is coming in, and we lost Matt Gravely in 19. Matt ended up doing punting, kickoff, and field goal. He did all 3 for us and was a heck of an athlete and kicker in our program. Miles is coming in. Miles is a punter, kickoff guy, does place kick as well. We'll see how that works out, but he will add to what we have returning and what we're bringing in, and we're excited. We feel like our kicking game has allowed us to stay in ball games, and that is a huge part of the game for us, to play those 4-quarter games and be able to put ourselves in the field position situations that we need. So being able to have his experience coming in to compete at that punting position and that kickoff position is invaluable for us.
Coach, here's the point where you get to sell. There's probably some recruits that are watching this and saying, who should I choose in the Gulf South Conference? Why choose North Greenville? Why choose to go to Tigerville? Coach, what's your best sell on why I should want to go to North Greenville?
Well, my best sell is why wouldn't you want to go to North Greenville? We got a great university. We have a beautiful location in the upstate of South Carolina. And you can get any major that you want to go into. We feel like the people at our university is a selling point. We've got nice facilities, and we play in an awesome conference. You're going to get coached and trained, and we got excellent staff at every level. But why wouldn't you want to be? We're looking for people that are certainly excited to be a part of the #1 football conference in America, that want to go and compete for championships and want to do something that maybe hasn't been done before. Our program's only been in a Division II football conference for 2 playing seasons. So this will be our 3rd season. So we're looking for people that want to take a challenge, that want to step out of the box a little bit and go do something somewhere that's never been done, and be able to continue to add and build that house, from the ground up, where they can establish a little bit of consistency.
Coach, and you said you forgot to mention one thing I thought you might, and that is the beautiful uniforms. And back in 2019, your uniforms voted the best in the Gulf South Conference. I look at this helmet and say that's a great looking helmet and a great reason to potentially go play for North Greenville. But Coach, thanks so much for taking some time. I'm looking forward to, seeing what North Greenville has to offer this coming year and how they will play in the Gulf South Conference and, really just moving forward for you guys. So thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk. And when we return, we'll be talking with Zach Morrison for Shorter University, another team that is on the rise in the Gulf South Conference.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
As we continue our tour around the Gulf South Conference, joined now by the head coach of Shorter University, Coach Zach Morrison. Coach, thanks for taking some time out of your day.
Thanks for having me here.
Excited to talk Shorter football,
yeah.
Another one of those teams on the rise, I believe, picking up your first win in a long time for the program back in that 19 season. But you guys played 4 games in 2020 and going 2-2 in those contests, Coach. A team on the rise, a team that we're excited about, and I know that you have told me specifically you're excited about your squad.
Exactly. I mean, you look at the group that we have here and the team that's been put in place for a long time and guys that have been in the program for now 4 years, and it's the largest group of seniors we've had in the history of the program this year, and 70 upperclassmen coming into this year. So, yeah, you look at the schedule, which I know we'll talk about here shortly, and just the group of players, a lot of excitement going on with the program right now.
Coach, your ties to Shorter University run deep, playing back for them in 2005 through 2008 at the center position. How special is it for you now to be back at your alma mater, to be coaching Shorter and trying to turn around a program that for a while has been a bit down, but trying to turn that around and seeing the results coming?
I'm extremely blessed to be there, number one. I mean, just playing there was an amazing experience, and having a coach that truly cared about you and not only talked about just being a man of character, but a man of God. And I think that now being the head coach is just really, it's been an amazing adventure, number one. It's been a challenge, but I think there's still surreal days where you leave the cafeteria and you walk out the cafeteria and you're going back to your dorm that you lived in, I don't know, what is it, 18, 15 years ago, something like that. And but now just the team, the university, the growth that we've seen, I mean, it's all been worth it. And I think that if you look at the growth that we've even done facility-wise, as well as just the players, it's been phenomenal.
Coach, entering your 3rd season, let's talk schedule now, and it all starts off against Brevard. You guys played more games than most teams in the Gulf South Conference last year, and I think for a team like you, that's a good thing, getting those extra reps. But how special is it going to be to play in front of your home fans against Brevard on the 4th of September?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges from this past year, playing the 4 games in front of a home crowd was amazing. We're at a new facility at Darlington. Having over 3,000 fans at those games was awesome, and I think just a new season with new players and the experience of the guys coming back, returning every starter from the spring is going to help as well. But just the excitement from the community, the excitement from the university, and just getting the guys back on campus again. We were blessed to have over 80 there this summer, the month of July, working out every day and getting after it, and it was fun to see that. But just you can feel the energy in the university within the faculty that are on campus this summer, and you get a sense even through social media that people are just ready.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's neat to see getting into that new facility and playing there. But right up next, you go on the road twice. You take on Clark Atlanta, you take on Albany State, a team that's historically in that championship game in the SIAC. Talk to me about how you guys can be successful on the road early on in the season.
I mean, it's the details. I mean, we push the details so much with our players and with the staff. And if we can get the guys just to focus on the little details, we can be successful against Albany State. We can be successful against Clark Atlanta. Both are going to be very challenging opponents, but in terms of, you've seen Albany State, they've won some games. They've beat some Gulf South Conference opponents the last couple of years. So Gabe does a great job at Albany State, and but we're, again, the deepest we've been in years, most experienced we've been in years, and I think that if guys can just come to work every day with a mind to work, a mind to get better, I push the 1% better mentality. We talk about the brick by brick mantra that we have, and it's everyone coming to work every day to better themselves, which is going to better the program. So we got that from the first year looking at the book of Nehemiah, and Nehemiah, he's a ring bearer cup bearer for the king, and he wanted to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and he was mocked and laughed at and said, you're going to fail, and every day coming to work, and he had a plan, and he was able to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. And I think that that's what we've been talking to these guys about, rebuilding a program, and we've already hit on just the growth that we've seen from the first win in 19, and then the 2-2 record in the spring, and then having this opportunity this upcoming season. I mean, we're extremely excited.
Coach, we're at Gulf South Conference Football Media Day, and the next portion of this schedule is the Gulf South Conference, one of the, if not the best, very highly up there in terms of football conferences. I know talking with the coaches, everyone feels like it is the best conference in Division II football. A challenge for you, especially for a team that is younger. I know you're excited about the experience, though, that you guys are bringing back this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at the conference, every week's an elite game. We're playing some opponents that conference championships, playoff teams, national championships have been played by multiple teams in this conference. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of the conference, we're now entering, I believe, year 7 in the conference. So we look to make a splash this year. It is going to be a challenge every week, but the expectation is come to work every week and win the day, win the week. And with an older, experienced team for the first time in years, we feel like we can do that.
Coach, looking at this schedule, I think if I counted correctly, you guys play 11 games this year. What is success for you in Shorter University this year in terms of wins and losses, but maybe even more so in continuing to build the program?
I mean, for us, it's the culture, it's the program, and I think that the expectation from the coaching staff, expectation from the players right now, everything is geared towards we've got to continue to improve. That 1% better mentality doesn't just go for just on the field or the classroom or the weight room. It's also from the coaching staff. We want to get better every day. The facilities, we want to better those every day. We want everything to improve. For us, in terms of the season, I think that having the ability to just go out there and compete and win. We want to win every game that we play. I mean, that's the mentality of the team right there. That's the mentality of the coaching staff. So we want to go out and win every single game. We know it's going to be a challenge. We understand the challenges that are going to be within this conference, but based on the experience and just the guys that have been through it, right? Because being as a former player at Shorter, when we started the program in 2005, we were not very successful in 2005. By year 4, again, we had over 30 seniors. We had been established, and we were able to win conference that senior year. So there's a lot of guys that's their goal. They want to win conference. They want to get to the playoffs. They want to be the best team they can be, and I think we have the depth, we have the experience. We just have to learn how to finish. And if we can finish games, then we'll have that ability. So you go back to the 19 season where we're 90% sophomores, and we're lose by 7 to North Greenville. We're close in the game against West Georgia, about to tie it up to put it into overtime, and then we throw an interception close to the end zone, and they kick a field goal 1 out of 10. We had West Florida tied at halftime that year. So, and again, we were all sophomores. We were still growing through that process, and having the 4 games in the spring, playing the 4 games in the spring, and then returning every single one of those players, I think has been phenomenal for they see what we can be.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't been around Coach Zach Morrison, I think one of the key takeaways that I've taken away recently, Coach, is your love of talking about your players. And we're going to do that next. and especially, kind of growing up with some of these players as a head coach, but now, as you've mentioned, a lot of returners this year. So let's park ourselves right there and talk about some of those returners. It all starts on offense with Jaden Dollard at the running back position. Let's talk about his play and what he's going to need to do this year and in order for you guys to perhaps attain some of those goals that you've set.
Yeah, I mean, for the players, it's relationships for us. I mean, I think that's the one thing that we talk about so much, and building those relationships. So it's all about the players. It's all about the student athletes, and we want to give them the best experience we can give them. Jaden was a late addition for us in the recruiting class. We were able to get him late. He started 3 games in the spring for us, right around 300 rushing yards, returned a kick for a touchdown, great out of the backfield as a receiver. I mean, just a phenomenal player, high motor, high energy kid. Did well in the classroom. I mean, he's what you want out of a back. So having some guys returning behind him, there's even some backs that want to challenge for that starting job. Jaden's done a good job this summer. He was there the entire month of July, and he was working, and we saw him, and we're extremely excited about what he can do for the university, for the program this fall.
Coach, on that offensive line, a group that I would think you're probably a little bit partial to, having been on the offensive line back in the day, but Nehemiah Bing at the center position for you, a guy who's played over 20 games over the last couple of years. And I think, another thing that I've taken is your desire for high character guys, and it doesn't get much better than Nehemiah Bing. Talk to me about him.
Nehemiah Bing, local player, Paulding County High School. I think when we were recruiting him, I just knew he was going to be the center, so I gave him my college number. I just knew that he was going to be the center, and I think 58 was worn by me and then the 2 centers after me after I graduated. So I was like, we're going to give him number 58. I think this kid's going to be the center. And then in terms of getting him on campus, like you mentioned high character. I mean, he's been an RA. He's a leader on and off the field. Like you can't ask for a better person than Nehemiah Bing. So I think that he has really stepped up into that leadership role. And we have, in terms of the offensive line, there are 5 fourth-year players on the offensive line. So there's some old guys out there with a lot of experience, but Nehemiah Bing, he and Jake Natowski, I think they have the most starts on the offensive line that are returning 25, 26 starts. But super high character, super motivational, and he was just picked as one of the top 20 centers in the country in a recent poll. So I think that he's got an opportunity to do really anything he wants to do this year.
Coach, let's switch sides of the football now and talk defense. And let's start in the secondary. Nemo Reddish, a safety back there, a 5th-year player for you. There hasn't been a lot of those, but a 5th-year player who has well over 300 career tackles. Coach, talk to me about him.
He's face of the program. I mean, just leader on and off the field. Nehemiah can do anything that he wants to do. If he wants to go into business, he's going to be successful. He plays multiple instruments. He sings in church. I mean, you look at what that guy has meant to the program. When we talked about culture shift, he was one of those guys that really pushed that culture, that new identity on a lot of the younger guys. So, but in terms of just his faith, I mean, I can't say enough good about Nehemiah Reddish. So. Nemo is a great kid. He's getting some interest from some NFL teams that are going to come see him play and have talked to him over the last couple of years. And so we're going to see what I think football in his future is looking very promising. But just leader on and off the field, leads the Bible study for the player-led Bible study. I mean, just phenomenal person.
Another player in that secondary, a freshman of the year in the defense in the Gulf South Conference, and Xavier Robinson playing that cornerback position. Let's talk Xavier Robinson. Linebacker. I messed it up, but we'll go with that. Let's talk about him and the role he plays on this squad.
So at linebacker, you look at, we talked about him, maybe just his speed is what helps him so much, right? His strength, his speed, his vision. He's just a player that can play sideline to sideline. You look at what he did as a true freshman. I think he had 3rd in the conference in tackles as a freshman, over 30 tackles in the 4 games that we had in the spring, and just like the players feed off of him and his energy. I mean, he brings the juice, the excitement every day at practice. So He loves the game of football. I think that's one of the things that you can see the most out of him. He just loves the game of football. But yeah, I mean, I can't. The players that we're talking about, you can't say enough good about them because they're culture guys. They're the work ethic guys. You know, they don't miss. They're not late to anything, meetings, practice, workouts. I mean, they're always there 10, 15 minutes early. We have that early's on time mentality. So, you know, we want them 10 minutes early to everything. And, you know, these are guys that we don't have to worry about with that.
Let's get into the trenches now. Fabian Reed on that defensive line. The word you used when talking is he's a big presence on that defensive line. Talk about him.
I mean, weight room wise, he's one of the strongest players on the team. I mean, he's another fifth-year player, and just the fact that what he does inside and his ability to use his hands, interior defensive lineman, get movement, get through. Penetrate. I mean, he was able to get a couple sacks in the spring as an interior defensive lineman, multiple quarterback pressures. So, yeah, Fabian, again, fifth-year player, been with us for a long time, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do this fall.
Let's talk some newcomers now, some players who maybe we haven't seen. I think of a guy like Dennis Foster, Philip Massengale. And Foster, you know, a very talented track athlete, a lot of speed there. Talk to me about those two wide receivers.
So Dennis Foster, 200-meter long jump state champ for the state of Georgia. He's going to play both sports. He's going to run track and he's going to play football. He was there the month of July, electric in terms of just his speed. And then having Philip Massengale as well. He played quarterback at Eagles Landing Christian and won 4 straight state championships. We're going to transition him out to the slot just because of how athletic he is. I think that Philip can do some really exciting things for us this year as well. But both on the perimeter, we do return essentially every receiver. We lost one, Willie Boyd, to graduation, but we return every other receiver. So I think they should get in the mix. They've got a good opportunity. They just got to win the opportunity when it's presented.
Coach, we've talked a couple of newcomers now on offense and those two wide receivers. Let's talk defense. And I think Trey Thomas and Chris McLean, two guys on that defensive line position that are going to have to step up this year as newcomers.
Yeah, Chris has got great length. Valdosta High School, I think that just great elite program that we got him from. He's going to have to step up in a big way on the defensive line. We do have 6 seniors on the defensive line this year. So, again, it's the deepest that we've been, but I think there's a great opportunity for him to break into the lineup and get some playing time this year, and we're looking forward to seeing him on the field. And then Trey Thomas at corner, Oakleaf High School, Florida. Trey, seeing him just go through some drill work this month is just, the kid's super athletic, very quiet, very to himself. I think he's going to open up a little bit, but he's a worker, and he's extremely athletic, and I think that he will have a great opportunity to get some playing time this year as well.
Coach, exciting times at Shorter, and I can see it on your face, just the smile and how excited you are about where this program is trending. We probably have some people watching that are prospective athletes. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of them reach out to you on Twitter. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
But talk to me about why should someone want to go play for Shorter? This is a team that in the last 2 years has just 3 wins, but as you have mentioned many times, is growing. And talk to me a little bit about why someone should choose Shorter.
So the program started in 2005, and I think that if you go back and you look at the program and what the foundation was, it's relationships. It's relationships with the players, the coaches, the admin, the community, but most importantly, a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Mm. So I think that if someone's looking for a school where they can build a relationship with their coaches, have someone that they can trust, because there may be other coaches pitching it, but it's truly, my office is always open. I have guys that come in and they talk about life, they talk about family, they talk about struggles in school, they talk about faith, and anything that they need, I'm there for them. And I think the personal relationship piece is the biggest thing that they may see in coming to Shorter. So Shorter University it's an amazing place with amazing people, Christian foundation in the classroom as well. So in terms of that, I think that if you're looking for a school that's a faith-based school with an awesome opportunity to compete in the best conference in Division II in the Gulf South Conference, and to have a faculty staff, and an administration that truly supports and you as a student athlete, as well as just growing relationships with you, because we have we have players that are coming back that are now in their mid-30s that played once on the inaugural team, and we still talk about those relationships. We still talk about Coach Phil Jones and the first couple of years and what he meant to us and what the school meant to us and what we now mean to each other in the relationships. And seeing those guys, we just did a memorial service for Coach Jones just a couple months ago after he passed in December this last year, and seeing a lot of those guys there just brings back all those memories, and it just the relationship aspect piece just is one step further. So I mean, it's an amazing school, it's an amazing place. I think that if you're looking for that faith-based and that relationship aspect, it is the best school for you.
Well, Coach, I must say you've got me excited, and I'm excited to see the direction that Shorter University and their football program is trending. So I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to sit down and talk Shorter football. It's been a pleasure. And when we come back from the UAB Hilton, we will be talking with one of the heavyweights in the conference, Valdosta State. They will join us next as we talk to them about how they can continue their run of strong success in the conference. Coach, thanks so much.
Thank you, Noah.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
As we come back here inside the ballroom at the UAB Hilton up here in Birmingham, Alabama, joined by head coach Gary Goff from Valdosta State. Coach, thanks for joining me.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
For those of you who don't know, and there's probably not many, Coach Goff, the coach at Valdosta State, one of the top Division II football teams in the country. His team spending, I believe, 10 or 11 weeks at the #1 spot last week. So a very talented coach and football team. He spent 8 years at Tiffin before coming to Valdosta State, where he's now in his 3rd season. Coach, excited about Valdosta State football. Obviously, it was a heartbreaking end to last season after the success that you guys had all year long, but some exciting things coming this year. Talk to me about Valdosta State football.
Well, we're excited to start playing again.
I believe it.
You're referring to last year. That was 19 last year. We just practiced for the entire year, which made it difficult. But, we're excited to get things back to normal. The team's done a great job all summer long. They're chomping at the bit to get out there and actually have a game and play a normal season. So, but we're going back to 19. Yeah, we've got some unfinished business. It was a tough way to end that season, but, we got to do a couple things just better is all. We got the talent. The guys have the work ethic, and, we're looking forward to this upcoming season.
Coach, you alluded to losing the 2020 season due to the ongoing pandemic. How challenging was that for you and your guys? What were some of the challenges that you guys went through? And then, end with some silver linings, maybe some things that you've seen come out of that have been great.
Yeah, I think the challenge is you go to a normal season and they're practicing and there's a reward at the end of the week, right? You're going out there and playing a game, and we didn't have that. So, I think we went through 15 practices in the fall, and that was it. There was no really scrimmage or anything. And then we get to the spring, and we're able to bring Grand Valley State down, another very well-respected program, and we had a 2-day joint practice, kind of like the NFL does. And that was a lot of fun. It was a good way to end the spring. But, really, we had about 30 practices last year with no games, and that was it. So that was very challenging to kind of get the guys up every Monday, get them focused back in. And then, by Friday, they're either back home watching their high schools play or Saturdays watching Division I teams play and kind of asking why are we not playing. So it's kind of this emotional roller coaster the program continued to go through, and I think everybody did that did not play. But kind of silver lining, it really brought our program, our coaching staff, players together. We really had to lean on each other to get through that hard time, and we were able to focus on academics and the weight room. So, I guess that's some positives coming out of that, even though, we sign up to compete and play games, not to just practice and lift all year long.
Yeah, trying to turn some, lemons into lemonade,
Right.
as they say. But, Coach, let's do something that you've been waiting a while to do. Let's talk football, and let's start with your schedule. I look at a Savannah State game right off the bat at home. How excited are you guys to strap it up, get out there and maybe hit some guys.
Very excited. We have not played Savannah State here at Valdosta State since my senior year. That's back in 1996.
That was a long time
It was
ago.
a long time ago.
Just for those of you watching, for some context, I was born in 1994, so that is a long time ago.
Well, that was my senior year at Valdosta State, so it wasn't that long ago. But no, we hadn't played them since then. Used to be a really big rival game. I expect that game to be sold out. They're going to travel well, and obviously the Blazer fans are excited to get back in the stadium and watch us play. So emotions going to be extremely high that game for everybody. But we're looking forward to kicking off the season there that first week against Savannah State. Should be a great venue.
And then you go on the road against Virginia Union, and then you round out non-conference play against Albany State. So a tough non-conference schedule for you guys, and really trial by fire, getting things going right away.
Yeah, all three of those programs, I believe, were 8-3 in the 2019 campaign. Really good teams, very well respected in their conference. I think two of them might have made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken there. So, but hey, the Gulf South Conference is a very difficult conference to make all the way through. And in order to do that, we've got three very challenging games, to start the season off. So it'll be some great tests for us early on.
Coach, everyone wants to talk about the final game of the season this year that's going to take place against West Florida, that rematch of that game in the playoffs. But I know your mantra is one game at a time. Let's talk about the Gulf South Conference as a whole. The best, one of the best, if not the best football conferences in the country. Talk to me about the challenge that presents a team like Valdosta State on a weekly basis.
Well, I've been fortunate. I did coach in the GLIAC for a long time, which, we used to say that conference is one of the best in the country, and it is. But I can say from experience from coaching in both conferences, the Gulf South is a brutal schedule because, there's going to be 3, possibly 4 nationally ranked teams in our conference almost every year. So it is a very difficult conference. But we all know this. If you win our conference, you have a legitimate shot at winning the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it fun. But, yes, I know everybody in the D2 world is kind of can't wait to get to that game. But, there's a lot of things that got to take place before that. I tell my coach staff and my team just about, on a weekly basis or daily basis that, hey, it's one day at a time. It's one game at a time. Let's focus on us right now. And when we get to game week, we'll start focusing on Savannah State. But, if you spend too much time focusing on that in game, you're going to look up and you're not going to be there.
So indulge me a little bit. Let's talk about that final game of the year against West Florida. Obviously, you guys beat them in the regular season in 2019 and then lose to them in the playoffs. They would go on to win that national championship. Coach, you guys are going to go on the road and play them in a tough environment. Talk to me about that game.
Well, obviously, again, everybody's going to be pretty excited, looking forward to that game. Hey, we're a great program. They're a great program. It's going to be a heavyweight fight. We know that. Two very well-respected programs. They did a good job. They got hot at the right time in 2019. Me and Pete, before the game, sitting there talking to each other, we knew whoever won that game had a great shot at winning the whole thing, and that's exactly what happened. But you got to keep a team healthy. There's 11 weeks prior to, or 10 weeks prior to that, so you got to stay healthy. What you want is for both programs to be healthy to get to that, so it is a big-time game for both programs. But, it's obviously both teams are going to be pretty fired up to play that game. But there's a lot of football to be played before then. There could be a lot of turns, that, who knows what's going to happen.
Coach, a great season in 19, but big changes on offense this year, especially, at the quarterback position as we kind of transition to talk about some key returners on your team. I look at a guy like Ivory Durham, some big shoes to fill, having to fill in for Rogan. So talk to me about the role he's going to have to play this year.
Yeah, Ivory Durham, he's played ever since he was a true freshman. He played in the national championship game. He threw a touchdown pass in the national championship game in 18. And he has some unbelievable talent. I mean, he does. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's as fast as anybody in the conference, and he has developed into a phenomenal leader. I'll say this. I've been around some great quarterbacks, some guys that have played professionally. HJ, Ivory Durham, his nickname is HJ. He has done a phenomenal job in the last, I'd say, 7 months of stepping into that quarterback position, pushing the team to work hard every day, and he's challenged himself every day. He spent a lot of time in the film room. He spent a lot of time on the field doing drill work. So I'm excited to watch him play. Everybody knows how electric he is, but I need him to go out there and be himself and play the game that he's very good at, and not worry about him, filling the shoes of our former quarterback. I mean, Rogan was a great player. We'll never take that away from him, but this is Ivory Durham's time to shine. It's his time to lead the program, and we're excited about it.
Coach, it's nice to have a security blanket in the backfield, and that's Jamar Tompkins on your team, a guy who rushed for nearly 1,000 yards in that 2019 season, a highly decorated player, first-team Gulf South Conference, couple of times, freshman of the year back in 18. Talk to me about the role he plays.
Absolutely. I think we're very blessed on the offensive side right now because, HJ is going to have a lot of weapons to use around him. And Jamar Tompkins is one of those. He's a solid runner. He's got great speed and size. I think, one thing that makes Jamar so special is, his breakaway speed is very, very good, and he's a very physical runner. But don't forget about Seth McGill. So that's kind of our 1-2 punch right there. And Seth is a great all-around football player. I mean, we could line him up at receiver, at quarterback, or running back. So those two young men in the backfield behind HJ is going to take a lot of pressure off him because, both of them have been all-conference players and are dynamic.
Let's talk about one of the guys that he's going to be throwing the ball to out on the outside, HJ, and Brian Sons. The guy has over 2,000 receiving yards in his career at Valdosta State. He gets to rack them up in your offense, that air raid type offense. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, very smart football player. He's got great hands, extremely elusive. And he's played a lot of football games himself, and he knows how to win. He's a winner. He's a fierce competitor. So another security blanket right there for our QB. But, they've been out there working just about every day this summer. So they're on the same page. But Brian is a dynamic player that really just adds another element to the offense.
Coach, and one of the things you mentioned in our conversation prior to this was the depth this year, and maybe being even deeper than the 2019 season, and I think that's scary for us football fans to realize, but another wide receiver, Leandre Gallimore, a guy who, almost caught 800 yards of receiving in 19. Talk to me about him and Sons and really just offense in general.
Yeah, LC is another dynamic player, extremely fast. He probably has the best hands I have ever coached when it comes to the fade, the deep ball. Any catch kind of, over his shoulder, he's phenomenal at. And he can really take the top off the defenses, But if you go back to that 2019 season, we had a few key injuries at the receiver position, and we got thin there towards the end of the season. And now, we feel like we're too deep at every single receiver position and tailback position. There's some guys in there, some redshirt freshmen or some transfers that maybe are unproven right now, but from what we've seen through the fall and spring, that they're going to add a lot to the offense. We do have on the offense side of the ball a few key transfers. Antoine Dixon is going to be our split end. He caught 117 balls at Kent State. Another young man who can flat out fly. So as long as we stay healthy, which is the name of the game at every level, we're going to be pretty explosive offensively. We just got to go out there and execute, protect the football, and great things are going to happen. The offensive line, we will have, some new faces on the offensive line. We graduated several at that position right there. Ralph Singleton will anchor that offensive line as our right tackle. He's played a lot of football. Ty Henson at center is a solid player, very smart young man that'll get us in the right calls. And then we got some key transfers to the offensive line position too. We got a couple grad transfers in Jeremiah Campbell and then Zane Hecking. So I feel like we're even deeper at the offensive line than we were in that 19 season. But they still got to go out there and prove that they're just as good or better than that offensive line in the 19 season.
Coach, we've heard the word depth out of your mouth several times now, and if there's one position group that has a lot of depth, it's that defensive back position. And I think of guys like Corey Roberts, Mondrell Jefferson that are coming back. Talk to me about that position group.
Yeah, defensively, we feel just as good. We feel like we're very deep on that side of the ball as well. In the secondary, Corey Roberts has played a lot. He's played a lot of football. I think he led the team in tackles. I guess, excuse me for not remembering all the stats because it was almost 2 years ago when we did play.
It has been a while.
But I think Corey Roberts led the team in tackles. Mondrell Jefferson, another safety, is a great football player. He just puts you in the right position, makes all the calls. He's kind of the quarterback on that back end for us. And then Torres Dotson, one of our corners, has had a phenomenal year. He's just bigger, faster, and stronger, and understands the defense, and he's been a lot of fun to coach and be around. And then we've got a few redshirt freshmen, that if we'd have played in 20, these guys would have seen some playing time. So now they've had a full year under their belt in the weight room and learning the defense, and there are going to be some really good players there too. One that you'll see a lot and probably early is Marcel Williams is a dynamic redshirt freshman that will play. But on the back end, a few key transfers in as well. Christian Matthews is a grad transfer. He'll be a household name. The young man is special. He's a really good player, smart young man, and can flat out fly himself. And then we got a few others in Damari Kelly and Daryl Malone. So that secondary we feel like is very, very deep as well. Unfortunately, you go through a lot in the secondary because they run. So we'll be able to rotate them in and keep them fresh.
Coach, I have to admit it was a challenge to pare down some of your returners with the numbers that you have. But another player that I wanted to focus on defense, Nick Moss at that linebacker position, a player that played early on in that 19 season, but then would go down with injury. I know you're excited to get him back, and he's fully healthy.
Yeah, Nick is he's a good football player, a great person. I mean, it hurt us when I think he had his injury around week 4 or 5 in 19. And we really missed his leadership on the field. He broke his leg. Obviously, he was healthy and clear to play in the 20 year if we'd have had one. But Nick is a really good football player. He's kind of that extra coach on the field for us. So excited to see him go out there and kind of finish his senior campaign.
Coach, you're making my job easy as we transition to talk about some top newcomers. You've already mentioned some guys, Christian Matthew. I look at Antoine Dixon, Jeremiah Campbell. Talk to me about those guys and maybe even others that are on this squad that are coming in, haven't played a lot of football at Valdosta State.
Yeah, I don't want to leave out the defensive line. We got Jadavion Williams is a solid player coming back at the defensive line right there. Arrington Doolin. Then we got a few key additions there too. One that you're going to see play a lot is Brian Williams. And he transferred to us back in 20, so he's been with us now for a year, and excited to finally see him get on the field and play because he's a very strong interior defensive lineman. But I think this transfer portal has opened up a whole new recruiting process, and we understand that we're still probably recruiting a few guys as we get ready to enter camp next week. That's just the name of the game, but it's also allowed us to add depth and add some really good players on both sides of the ball. And the Jeremiah Campbells, the Christian Matthews, the Damari Kellys, Zane Heckings. But if you look at it offensively, we really only got 5 returning starters, but we've got 9 young men that played a lot of college football. So that's what's going to be new about this camp and this upcoming season is. You kind of got new toys, right? You got new players that hadn't played in the season with you, but they're very talented. And how are they going to fit in and gel with your team? Most of them have been here for over a year with us already, so that part has kind of been addressed, and they're obviously a big part of the program. But I think a lot of the fans are going to see some guys out there and like, where did he come from? He's a really good player. So this season is exciting for many reasons. We got a lot of new players. And we hadn't played football in whatever it is up to now, 400 and something days.
It's been a while.
So we're looking forward to it.
Coach, here's the part of the program where I give you the the chance to sell your program, and I think the record speaks for itself. But there are players, and maybe you're competing against West Florida and others for recruits. What's your sell to these recruits on why should I or a recruit come and play at Valdosta State?
Well, I'll tell you this. Obviously, the football program kind of sells itself, but we understand we're a very fortunate location. That's why we had a lot of success because we're surrounded by great high school football coaches in the state of Georgia and the state of Florida and Alabama. We got great high school coaches around us, and therefore we get our chance to recruit some great high school players. But I would say the thing that is very special about Valdosta State, and I've been there as a student athlete and now as the coach, the community, the university, from the president all the way down, really want to see these young men succeed, not just on the field, but in the classroom, and help give them the tools and resources to be successful after their playing days are over. It's a special place. It really is. I've worked at a lot of different universities, had some great experiences, but I really haven't been at a place where from top to bottom they really are pulling for these student athletes to be successful, not just because they're a football player or a baseball player or a basketball player. They really want to see them have success. It's rich in tradition, and we got a chance year in, year out to be in the hunt for the national championship. There's not too many programs that can say that.
They don't call it Title Town for nothing, and I know that you've said that that's something that you guys strive to live up to every year. So, Coach, just want to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to come and talk Valdosta State football. I'm excited to see you guys get back on the field, strap it up, and get back out there playing. We've gone through 5 teams now, 3 to go. Next up is West Alabama. They'll be joining us in just a few moments. But, Coach, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
Five teams down and 3 to go, and I'm joined by Brett Gilliland now for the University of West Alabama. Coach, thanks so much for taking some time to jump in here and have an interview.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Glad to be here.
Excited to talk some football with Coach Gilliland. For those of you who don't know him, he had an outstanding career at the University of West Alabama, a career that put him in the West Alabama Hall of Fame, something that he will get to do with his dad, enjoy with his dad later this year when the 1971 national championship team goes into the Hall of Fame, a team that his dad was a member of. You're entering your 8th season now at West Alabama. So, Coach, let's talk West Alabama football. Some exciting things going on. I know in our conversation, you're excited about the investment that your administration and the athletic department are making in your program.
Yeah, there's a lot of growth. A lot of things going on with new stadium renovation, new jumbotron going up. We just got brand new turf before what would have been the 2020 season, so we're excited to finally get to play a full season on it. But just a lot from the administration to the alumni, fan base, and donors. Great support, and it's really fun to watch, fun for our guys to see and feel.
Coach, when you guys installed that turf, I'm sure you thought you'd be playing on it last year, and obviously that did not come to fruition. But talk to me about the challenges that COVID presented your program. I've heard some teams say, hey, my team got closer. Hey, it was difficult to communicate. Talk to me about the challenges and then maybe some of the benefits that came out of COVID in your program specifically.
Yeah, it was definitely difficult, especially on the front end when everybody scattered and went home. And, just getting the communication together the way we wanted it. So that we could be able to talk to each one of our guys to, number one, make sure them and their families were safe, but then also to try to keep a connection throughout our team, which is so very important in this game. And I feel like our guys got a lot closer throughout the whole process from March 2020 to now. I think we're a closer group, and they feel it, they talk about it, and a lot of that was because they made the effort to connect and continue connecting with one another when they weren't in the same city anymore. And it was challenging because guys had to go home, go to work, and do different things and get pulled in a bunch of different directions. And so I'm excited that we're at least coming on the back end of it, and we're all in the same town again. But I do feel like there was a lot of silver linings that came out of it for our guys.
Coach, every coach that I have asked this next question to has kind of scooted up in their chair a little bit, but the excitement of playing football again and right on September 4th, that game against Morehouse. Talk to me about the excitement level of getting back out there in front of the home fans on that new turf and, the excitement that it's coming with West Alabama football this year.
It's very exciting. And, we were fortunate. We got to play 2 games in the spring, one at home and one down in Mobile, which our guys got really fired up about. And it was fun to see that, release. And, so that's always exciting. But the first game, especially the first game at home, it's always a big deal. But to do it after we didn't get to play any in the fall of 2020, I mean, it's a huge deal for us as coaches. I'm sure our wives are excited about it too, because after the quarantine they kicked us out of the house, and but our guys are really looking forward to it. And managing emotions will be a big part of that first game.
Yeah, and then right after that, you guys will take on Tuskegee, followed by North American, and those are your 3 non-conference games. Talk to me about that non-conference schedule as a whole and how it'll better prepare you for this tough Gulf South Conference.
Well, I'm excited about it. We got 2 SIAC schools that are region opponents, very good programs with Morehouse and Tuskegee, and so I do think it'll be. We'll get started quick with good region teams. And anytime you can play a region opponent outside of our conference, that's a big deal. It's a big deal for everybody in our conference because, that's what all goes into the alignments of playoff selection and all that. So, I think it's going to be a really good few games there leading up to conference play. And, once we get in the gauntlet of conference, it's a different animal. But I'm excited about our schedule and how it's unveiling.
We all know how tough play in the Gulf South Conference can be. I look at your schedule as everyone else's and say, very difficult schedule. But if there's a silver lining, you play a lot of very good teams at home this year, and there has to be an advantage to that. Coach, talk about the Gulf South Conference play, one of the premier Division II football conferences in the country.
It's unbelievable. And, people that haven't been a part of the Gulf South Conference, really, I don't think can understand it. I mean, it is week in and week out, great programs, great coaches. We've gotten to spend a little time together here, and it's some great head coaches and staffs. You talked about our games at home against some really good opponents. We start out with 3 games on the road, which is a tough stretch with anybody you're playing. But when you're playing 3 Gulf South Conference teams in a row on the road, that's going to be a challenge for our guys. And so it's a gauntlet. There's no other way to explain it. I mean, the Gulf South Conference is for real.
I think the fact that one of the coaches threw at me that I have found the most interesting this entire time was UWF, who will come on here next for the next interview, has been in 2 national championships but has yet to win the conference. And I think that speaks to the strength of the conference and on a weekly basis how that prepares you for a potential playoff run.
Sure, no doubt. And we know that if we're successful through our conference run, we'll, number one, have a great chance to be in the playoffs, but then we'll be set up to probably have to go through some of the conference opponents again as we get into the playoffs. That's just part of how it works. But it's always unique being a part of such a special group.
Let's transition now and talk about some players. I know there's some players on this roster that you're excited about, some players that are back and very well seasoned. And it all starts at the quarterback position for you guys with Jack McDaniels. Talk to me about the role he will play on the 2021 West Alabama squad.
Quarterback's always important, but he's a great leader. He's developed into a big-time leader on our team. And he came in as a transfer in 2019 and took steps every week. Ended up later in the season, the last few games, playing at a really high level. Did the same thing throughout spring of 2020 when we got cut after 11 practices, but he had a really good spring. And then this fall and last spring, he just got better and better every time we got the opportunity to practice. And then the 2 games we got to play this past spring, he did really good in. So we're expecting big things out of him. We're expecting him to lead our team and facilitate our offense in a big way.
And at the running back position, Derek Underwood, a player that you have told me has really stepped up. You mentioned those 2 games last year, but rushing for 240 yards combined in those 2 games. He led your team in rushing, was 6th in the Gulf South Conference in 19. How important is he to this offense?
Very important. He's an all-around back. Whether it's pass pro or whether it's running a route or truly just being a running back, he's an all-around back and can do it all. And that's the unique thing about him. He's from Birmingham, a guy we recruited out of Homewood. He's sat and waiting for a couple years, behind some good backs that were older than him. And I'm just really excited to see where this year takes him. He's done a really good job of being a leader, but also done a really good job of getting his body ready for a long season.
We mentioned the quarterback already, and he's got quite the target to throw to in Bailey Blanchard, a player who's 8th all-time at West Alabama in terms of career receptions, coming back this year, a first-team All-Gulf South Conference type player. What does he bring to offense and ultimately helping out that quarterback position?
Just steady and consistent. You know exactly what you're going to get with him. And, he's going to make plays, great ball skills. In our game against Savannah State, I think he caught the go-ahead touchdown, I believe is what it was. But just great ball skills, and you know exactly what you're going to get. He's always going to be there. He's dependable. Tyreek Martin's another receiver on the other side that's also coming back to us, who is just an electric player. Really feel good about both those guys. But Bailey, as a leadership point, he's a really strong leader in our team, and guys look up to him.
I don't want to leave anyone out on offense, but I'd like to transition now to defense. And it all starts with Shamar Lewis. I think of it, Andres Lilly, those type of players. Talk to me about your team's defense this year.
Well, I think we got some guys that have been with us for a while, played a good bit of ball, but are stepping into some roles that maybe they haven't been a full-time starter, or a guy that we're going to depend on to make big plays. And you brought up two with Shamar and Lilly. And then Jeremiah Boyd's another one that I think of, and Josh Hatcher. We got a lot of guys that have been in the program for a while. They know what we expect defensively, how we want to play. They're bought into what we want to do. And I'm excited. I was excited going into 2020 fall to see those guys and how they fit those molds. And and they've done nothing but mature continually over this past year and a half. So I'm really excited to see how they anchor the defense.
You mentioned Josh Hatcher there, a quieter player on the football field, but he does his job. A guy on your football team. Talk to me about the role he plays as, in the middle of that defense at the linebacker position.
Well, that position's always kind of a quarterback of the defense, and he's one of those lead by example guys that you got to have. Everybody can't be a rah-rah, guy and be able to yell and all that, but he's a lead by example. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. He's going to be doing what he's supposed to do, and guys follow that and gravitate towards that. He's a big deal for us.
Let's talk some newcomers now. I look at the center position. Cordell Watts, a player that's going to be asked to play a big role this year. Talk to me about him and some other newcomers.
Well, when Cordell came, he transferred to us, and we knew he was a really good player. We had Carl Dyer the first year Cordell was there, who was a 4-year starter for us, and at the center position. So Cordell sat in the waiting and redshirted. So we were really excited for him to take the field in fall of 2020, and equally excited now. He's become a leader on our team, even though he hasn't played in a game yet, other than the 2 this spring. He's become a leader on our team and anchoring the offensive line that really has several returning starters on it. But that key position in the middle was something that we were needing to fill some big shoes, and he's done that. So we're really excited about him.
You also have mentioned in our conversation Chris Terrell and the role he'll play as a defensive end, and trying to put pressure on that opposing team's quarterback. There's some really good quarterbacks in this league.
There are.
So talk to me about the role he will have to play this year.
He's an older guy that the guys look up to, and he's done a great job the whole time he's been in our program. And that's what he likes to do. He likes to get to the quarterback, and sometimes it's difficult for us to practice against him, so that's always a good sign. Yeah. But I think he'll be really special for us.
And then ultimately at tight end, a position that you guys are looking to replace a very talented player. But Owen Harper, you mentioned he has big shoes to fill, but he wears big shoes. Talk to me about the role that he will play this year on offense.
Yeah, well, Quay Boyd was a huge asset for us and multiple-time All-American. And, I really think Owen's going to step into that role with some other guys we have alongside him. But he does wear a big shoe. It's either 16 or 17, so he's able to fill that. But he's able to do what we ask of our tight ends, run routes, catch the ball. He's a big target, but also get in there and get dirty and block. And so he's progressed a lot over the last 2 years, really.
Coach, I know your roots run deep to this program. Playing there, being in the Hall of Fame, your dad being on that 1971 national championship team. How special is it for you to be a part of this program? I know you guys are going to honor that championship team this year, and now potentially being a part of a team that could bring a national championship back to Livingston.
It's really special. That group that my dad played with is as close a group as I've ever seen, and still to this day, 50 years later. And I'm so excited that we get to honor those guys and get to put them in the Hall of Fame as a team. A lot of the individuals are in the Hall of Fame already, but we get to put them in as a whole group, a whole team, because that's what they were. That's what they were all about. And I've always called them my uncles because I feel like that's what they've been, because they're my dad's brothers through football. But it's this closer group, and it's so rewarding to be able to see those guys and do some things for those guys to make them feel special. And being at West Alabama is special for me and my family. And I played there. Obviously, Dad played there. Mom went there. So it's been in our family for a long time. But to be able to hopefully put a product on the field that all of those guys can be proud of is important.
There's bigger cities that teams in the Gulf South Conference play in. Livingston, not the largest city, but I know you like it that way. We have people watching that are recruits.
Sure.
Why should they choose West Alabama? Go ahead and give me your best pitch.
Well, it's a unique place. You said it. And one thing I like is we're a small town where you can focus on academics and football, and there's not a lot of distractions. Our guys can go get to bigger cities if they need to, but we get to grow closer together and focus on those things while they're here, and that's a huge deal. We've got road maps that show you can get wherever you want to from West Alabama. Malcolm Butler, Tyreek Hill, Seth Roberts, multiple others have showed you that just in the football world, but even in the business world and other areas, you can get to the pinnacle of what you want to reach. Livingston's a place that cares about UWA, cares about our football program, and wants our guys to succeed in life. And that's the big deal. And if you're a recruit and you want to go somewhere that wants you to be successful in life and wants to grow you in every area of your life, then West Alabama is a place you need to look at. And I think it's a special, unique place.
Well, Coach, you've got me excited for this upcoming season. I'm excited to see you guys get back on the football field. Just want to take a moment to say thanks for taking some time out of your day to join me. Up next, we'll have the defending national champion head coach and coach of the year at the Division II level, Pete Shinnick. He'll be joining us representing the University of West Florida. But, Coach, thanks so much for your time today, and best of luck in this football season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
As we welcome you back here in Birmingham, I'm joined by the defending national champion head coach, Pete Shinnick. Coach, thanks for taking some time out of your day.
No, thanks for having me on. Excited to talk football.
Yeah, definitely. I am raring and eager to talk some football. We've talked to, I believe you're the 7th coach now that we've talked to today. Coach, a lot of expectations for this coming year coming off of that 2019 national championship, a year that you guys went 13-2. How do you guys manage expectations? You come into the year ranked as the #1 team in the nation. How do you guys manage that?
Well, really, it's been a daily process since the spring of 20. So when we got back from the national championship, just started to lay in a foundation for what we felt the fall of 20 needed to look like and how we needed to approach that from a day-to-day standpoint, week by week. And I think our guys have handled it really well. And obviously not playing in 2020 sets the stage for where we are right now, just this extended, longer period. But really just, setting daily goals, setting a daily expectation of what we want our guys to do and then how to maintain that and keep that. It's a great place to be in. It's where we wanted the program to be when we started it, to have high expectations. We've always internally had high expectations. Now we've got some external ones, and it's just part of the process of growing and trying to be the team that we want to be.
Coach, I know we're here to talk about 2021, but bear with me a minute as we jump back to 2019. Let's reminisce a little bit. A special year for you guys. You play in that national championship in 2017, a game that you guys lose, and now get a chance at redemption in 2019, and really, I think, a magical run through the playoffs, if you look at it. Talk to me about that season and, winning that national championship.
Yeah, I think the season was just a great testimony to our guys really coming together, doing what they needed to do. We had a tough opening loss to Carson Newman, but then really found ourselves and won 7 in a row in conference, played a great Valdosta defending national championship team, lost to them by 6, and then really found a way to win out. I think the aspect of the playoffs that was so amazing to us is I think our opponents were 55-1 going into the games that we played. We played 4 undefeateds. We beat 4 undefeateds. I think we beat 3 #1 ranked teams at different times during that process. And just our guys just continued to believe, continued to get better. Really, I felt like after the Carson Newman loss, our team started to get better every week. And again, we lost by 6 points to Valdosta and then came back and found a way to beat them in the playoffs. And that really just kept us moving in the right direction. But tribute to a lot of our 5th-year seniors, a lot of guys who aren't on the team, now, but guys that just believed in the process, kept encouraging their teammates, stay true to the process, stay true to what we're doing. They did that, and that's really why we're the national champions in 2019.
So before we get to 2021, let's talk about the challenges that COVID presented. I know arete, it's a word in your program, and I know it came to play during this very challenging year, a year that you guys were dying to just get back out on the football field. But talk to me about how your program grew despite the challenges of COVID.
Well, arete, Greek word for excellence, living up to one's fullest potential, moral virtue. We really emphasize that. We've been doing it from the beginning of the program on a day-to-day basis. And so to live up to your fullest potential under difficult circumstances, you got to find out who you are, and you got to find out how much you want this, and you got to find out what type of teammate you are through that process. A lot of sacrifices. Guys needed to do things, stay away from certain things, put themselves in a position so that we could practice and that we could get better. We had a fantastic fall and an even better spring without playing any games. We did have 2 scrimmages in the spring, which I thought were extremely productive. Gave our guys a great chance to see where they were what they needed to work on, and then summer's been extremely helpful as well. So I give our guys a lot of credit. They maintained a great attitude. They maintained great effort. They stayed upbeat. And I think that puts us in a position right now going into the fall of 21 where, we've got a really good team that needs to continue to grow and develop, but they've done what's needed to be done to make this thing work.
Coach, it's been a long time since you guys have played a game that matters for records, and you guys will get to do that on September 4th against a Division I opponent in McNeese State nonetheless. How excited are you guys to strap it up and play some meaningful football?
Oh, most definitely. Fired up, and every guy's been looking forward to this, and this one's been on our schedule for a little bit, and to be able to say, okay, now this is the game that we're going to play after our national championship game. What a challenge. McNeese State played in the spring, played quite well, had some great games. They obviously have been a very good FCS program that has made the playoffs. So we know it's a tremendous challenge for us to go to their place. Their city has been hit with a couple of hurricanes. This will be, a full capacity, I think, for the first time. This will be a huge opportunity for them to rally around their team. So going in, we know we've got our work cut out for us because they're as good an opponent probably as we've faced in the history of our program.
And now let's, jump to September 11th and a date that I'm sure you guys have had circled on the calendar for a long time. I know that there's a desire to, at some point, play a full season of football on campus at the University of West Florida, but getting to play your first home game at Penn Air Field, how excited are you guys to strap it up on campus and be able to play in front of your students on campus?
Yeah, this date probably came earlier than we anticipated. We had a great working relationship with the Blue Wahoos and the city of Pensacola. And with Major League Baseball taking over minor league baseball, things have changed. And so now we've got an opportunity to host a game at Penn Air Field. Excited about what that's going to look like. A lot of preparations gone into that. Hopefully that's a preview for whenever that day comes. But for us, it's our opening game. It's our opening home game, I should say. For us, it's a matter, we want to get the community behind us. They were fantastic all through the playoff run, the championship run, how they've supported us. We want to be able to get them up on campus, show them, what we have. And then we do look forward to getting back to Blue Wahoo Stadium for our second home game and the remaining home games for the 2021 season. But it's a unique situation. It really is. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be an atmosphere that people don't want to miss out on.
And then, one of the toughest non-conference schedules, I think, of any team in the Gulf South Conference. The next game up, you guys travel over to Texas, and you get to take on a team that you lost to back in 2017. Coach, talk to me about that matchup and rounding out your non-conference schedule before jumping into the Gulf South.
Yeah, and I think for us, we look at both McNeese and Commerce really as good of football programs that, are out there. And Commerce is going to be, depending on what poll, they're going to be somewhere between 5 and 10 in the country. They have been a great program. They were very close to advancing. Last year they've stayed in the playoffs since they won the national championship. They've really found a way to year in and year out be one of the top programs in the country. So we know we're going to be challenged. And I think both of those games being on the road, really going to test us for who we are before we get into what I think is the toughest conference in the country, the Gulf South Conference.
So let's talk about that conference now. And I've spoken with every coach in this conference so far. And I think one fact they like to remind me of when they talk about how tough this conference is that despite playing in 2 national championships in your 4 years, you've yet to win the conference. That speaks to, how strong this conference is. Talk to me about the challenge weekly of playing in one of the best conferences in America.
Well, yeah, we knew it when I took the job going on 8 years ago, just knew that if you could win the Gulf South Conference, you're definitely going to get into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But just getting into the playoffs gives you an opportunity. And we've had all but 2 of our institutions make the playoffs since we've been in the league. And all of them have had an opportunity to, make a good run. I think week in and week out, you're as challenged as any conference in the country. No other conference has put 4 teams in the national championship game in the last 10 years like the Gulf South Conference has. We've had 2 of those teams win it. So as we do this, I think we have 5 appearances in the last 10 years. So we know as a program that we've got to play great every week to be in the hunt for a Gulf South Conference championship. And, I remind our guys, we haven't won that thing yet. That's still something that we need to get accomplished at some point in time here. But at the same time, we know if we're not on our best and we're not where we need to be, it's going to be very difficult. So I love it. It keeps us straight. It keeps us moving in the right direction. And it challenges our guys week in and week out.
I spoke with Gary Goff earlier, the head coach for Valdosta State, and really both you and those programs, you don't get to the level that you guys have done without by looking too far ahead, looking too many games ahead. But we will wrap up the season playing Valdosta at home. How excited are you guys for that game? To get to play a team that you went 1-1 against. You won the game that mattered, but talk to me about that matchup at the end of the year at home.
Well, I think Valdosta really has done an amazing job in the history of their program. You look at the number of national championships that they have, the number of Gulf South Conference championships that they have, and Gary has just continued that trend of what type of program they are. We went in there a year ago with the opportunity, whoever won was going to win the conference. They earned that right. They won a very good football game. And then, I said this when I came into the league, you're really going to have to win the Gulf South Conference twice or win it in the playoffs like we have. In 2017, West Alabama won the conference, but we won it in the playoffs. And they got the conference championship, but we got the opportunity to go on. Valdosta won it in 19, but then we won it in the playoffs. So you got to find a way to do that. And I think that last game against Valdosta State, I hope that we're both blessed enough to be in a position that is for the conference championship. There's 6 other schools that want to be in that mix as well. I get that. But we know that, that game will play a significant role in our season. It is a long ways away, and we've got to go through, a grueling stretch prior to that. So we know it's at the end, but at the same time, we're doing everything we can to prepare. Our first conference game's against Delta State. It's at their place. We know that we've got to be at our best to be able to play the way we're capable of against them because they're very good at home, and, we've got our hands full.
Coach, I know most coaches, they love to talk about their players, so let's transition and talk about that. We'll first go through some, key returning players, and the conversation really starts at the quarterback position. Austin Reed, the freshman of the year in the Gulf South Conference on offense. He threw for over 2,000 yards, you reminded me the other day, in his last 6 games of the season. A phenomenal talent at the quarterback position, and he really is the, what gets the engine going on this Argos football team.
No, he does, and I think the thing that, love about Austin is the work ethic that he puts in on the practice field. He does that in the classroom as well, and he does that game time. So, he really is a leader on and off the field. He puts himself in a position to be successful every time he steps out there. He has a great approach to daily, practice. He has a great approach to being the best that he can be, and I'm really looking forward to him having a fantastic season. I don't think there's anything in him that's not putting himself in position to do that. And so our offense, is a quarterback-driven offense. I think 3 out of the last 4 seasons that we've played, we've had a 3,000-yard passing quarterback. Austin went for 4,000. Played a few more games in 19, but our offense is a quarterback-driven offense, and he has the keys to the offense, and he works daily to get better. He's got a great supporting cast around him, so I'm excited about what they will bring to the table and help him do what we need to get done.
There's a lot of deep position groups on your team, but maybe none as deep as that running back position. You've told me it could be as many as 5 deep, but Anthony Johnson, kind of the bell cow at the top, rushed for almost 700 yards during that championship season. Talk to me about his role this year.
Yeah, I think Anthony Johnson really, from Pace High School, right there local. I think he's 2nd all-time leading rusher in the history of the program. Now, you only get away with that a couple of times because we're only 4 years old. But, but Anthony's done a great job, and Anthony will be the senior. He'll be the senior leader of that group. Shamari Mason was a first-team all-conference player as a freshman in 2019. So those 2 guys highlight that group. But I think we got 3-4 other guys that will provide great depth for us. Javon Newton's played a lot of football for us. He's done a fantastic job. Ravion Hargrove has transferred in. He's done a great job. And Seth Johnson is there as well. We redshirted Seth. He's the same age as Shamari, but now he's got 4 years of eligibility left. So we feel we have depth at that position. I think that's a position you got to have, more than 2 guys that you feel good about. So we're excited about that. And then we've got two other guys. We got a true freshman and a redshirt freshman that we like as well. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully the top guys rise to the top and continue to do it. But that will be a position that has great depth and great competition on a day-to-day basis.
I know a position group that your quarterback, Austin Reed, must be excited about is your wide receiver core. You lose Tate Lidio and Quentin Randolph after that national championship team, but you now have Karan Ashley and others at that position group. Rodney Coates, talk to me about your wide receivers.
Yeah, again, Tate and Quentin and Kevin Grant, three very productive fifth-year seniors that graduated from UWF. I mean, they had phenomenal careers for us. They will be missed, but Karan Ashley will step into that role. Rodney Coates will step into that role. Kenneth Chanel will step into that role. All three guys played a lot in the national championship game and in 2019. Larry Rembert will step in as a transfer. David Durden will step in as a transfer. Evan Mitchell is a returner who played all in 19 and has a couple years of eligibility left. He is, all those guys really have stepped up to kind of fill that void, give Austin some really good targets, and, kind of move our program in the direction that we want to go. We always want to be able to throw the ball. We always want to be able to have, if we have a great quarterback, he's as great as the guys who block for him as well as the guys who catch for him. So we feel like we've put together a pretty deep wide receiver group to go along with Austin and give him all the tools that he'll need to be successful.
If there's one position group that you guys are kind of restocking the cupboard a little bit, it's that offensive line. Needing some players to step up there after some players graduated. Talk to me about that position group.
Yeah, we lost 3 starters, but we got 3 starters back as well. I know that's 6 people and there's 5 O-linemen, but we did start Dalton Simpler, who will be our starting center starting fall camp. We did start him quite a bit through the process. And so as one of our tackles was out, Dalton played quite a bit. Mike Dilla and Jacob Bruce have the most experience, so we feel like we have 3 solid starters there. We have a guy that, Zach Elam will be in the mix there. He was a redshirt freshman who did a phenomenal job all last year with us. We brought in a couple of transfers, and Parker Thomas is one of them. We've got 2 guys that'll join us this fall that I'm very excited about as well. Nash Nelson is a returner who has done a great job for us as well, finding a way to get into that starting group. That group is always tough, I think. I mean, I've played seasons where it's like I feel really good about my starting 5. The depth is a little bit of an issue. We're going to need some guys to step up, but I like the continuity that we have right now, and I like how guys have risen to the challenge that they're stepping into to put themselves in a position to be where they need to be. So we'll know here probably in about 3 weeks what type of depth we have, but I know we're going to have really good competition. But again, to have 3 guys back who played a lot of football for us is huge at any position.
We've talked about the quarterback on offense. Now let's transition to defense and talk about one of your quarterbacks on defense, one of the hardest hitters in the Gulf South, Trent Archie at the linebacker position coming back. Talk to me about his role on defense.
Well, he's the senior leader on defense. He's been there really since the beginning of the program. He was 2016 Gulf South Conference freshman, of the year on defense. So, I mean, he's been doing it for a while. Because of COVID and because of a year off, he's now still with the program. He and Rodney Coates are, original members of that first recruiting class. So great to have their leadership around. Trent really puts our linebacker situation in a great spot. We got 2 guys on the other side that I think anchor the weak side of our linebackers in our 4-man front. We've got DeMarco Artis and Key Wetzel. DeMarco was with us during the national championship run. Key is a transfer who joined us and was with us all last fall and last spring. So excited about those guys anchoring the outside of our linebacker core. On the inside, we have a couple of transfers. We've got Shea Campbell, who transferred in from West Virginia. He was with us all spring and fall. He's a graduate student working on his master's, excited about that. And then Stephon Williams, who was first team all-conference from Valdosta. He's transferred in to be one of the other inside linebackers there as well. Throw that with a really, I think, deep group of young guys. I know Emilio is one of the guys I mentioned, this newcomer. We feel like, that's a position where we've got a lot of moving parts. We got to get I think we've got the seasoned experience guy. We got to get some great experience for some of the younger guys in there. But really look forward to seeing how that position is going to continue to grow and develop.
Let's talk about a position group that has a lot of seasoning, the defensive backs, Deante Bell, Sherrod Oliver, some names back there among others. But talk to me about that defensive back position group.
Yeah, Sherrod will be going into his third year of playing quite a bit. Marcus Clayton will be going into his fourth year of playing quite a bit. Deante Bell has made some preseason All-American lists at safety. We've got Keon Holder. We really returned, 4 starters from that group. Keon Holder, as I mentioned, played a lot for us, started on and off. And then TJ Limehouse will be back as well. We lost TJ with an injury about 9 games in, I think, last year. And he'll be back. So we feel like we've got the experience that we need. Ye Givens is another corner that's played quite a bit of football for us, played a lot in our national championship run. He'll be back. So as we look at that group, we feel like, okay, this group has some depth. We got to get the right guys out there at the right time. We've been able to sign a couple of freshmen, in the 20 class and the 21 class that we'll wait to see what they can do. But again, for us, it's always been, we want to have as much depth as we can, like everybody else in the country does. And we feel like we've got depth that's now played and have some experience in that secondary.
Let's talk a couple of newcomers as we, wind this down. But Zach Offord and Anelio Rios, talk to me about those guys and the roles that they're going to play this year on this team.
Yeah, very excited about Zach. Zach came in and redshirted and really did a great job and has put himself in a position where he's extremely competitive and in what I think is a very competitive wide receiver room. He has found ways to continue to rise to the top both fall and spring and over the summer. And then O'Neal is one of those young linebackers that we feel, just continues to gain experience, continue to gain, support and traction through the process. Very excited about what he's done from fall, spring to now coming into summer, having been able to work with him and see what he looks like. He's going to provide great depth. Both those guys will probably be on a lot of special teams, but you'll also see them playing down in and down out on both offense and defense.
Coach, obviously the strength of the program speaks for itself, but every year you have to restock the cupboards per se, and I know that's a challenge for your staff to continue to work to improve, raising the bar. There's probably prospective student athletes that are watching this. Why choose the University of West Florida?
Well, the University of West Florida, prior to football, was a great institution in a great location. Okay.
Can't beat the beaches.
Well, you can't beat Pensacola. Pensacola really as a whole. You talk about the beaches, you talk about downtown, you talk about the campus area. Pensacola as a whole is a fantastic place to be, whether you're 18 or 80. It's just a great city to live in. We've had tremendous support from our community. When we play downtown, it's going to be exciting to see what that looks like on campus. But we're an amazing academic institution, and we were prior to football, and we still are. If you're looking for a great place to get a great degree and then play great football or be around great football, be a student that supports football as well as athletics. University of West Florida has more Gulf South Conference championships of any other athletic program. We're over 100 at this point in time. We've got 10 national championships across the board with all of our athletic programs. It's a great place to be a fan. It's a great place to be a student athlete. And it's a great place to be a student.
Coach, I'm excited to see what's next coming off of the national championship, but want to thank you for taking some time to sit down and reminisce with me, but also look ahead. So I appreciate your time. And up next, we'll have the University of West Georgia. They will round out the final team in the Gulf South Conference as we get set to wind down Media Day. Looking forward to talking with them. But Coach, thanks again.
You're welcome.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
Welcome back to the UAB Hilton here in Birmingham, one of the last teams that we'll talk to. Coach, you've been waiting a while, so I appreciate your patience as we've gone through these other teams, but I'm looking forward to talking some West Georgia football with you.
Well, great. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk about our program, talk about our players.
For those of you who don't know Coach Dean, he's entering his 4th playing season, 5th season as head coach. We'll get to what happened in 2020 in just a moment. But Coach Dean coming in and a young team last year and now looking to kind of build on that. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the challenges that COVID presented your program and maybe how you overcame some of those challenges and, maybe even some silver linings that you and your staff saw despite the challenges of the pandemic.
Well, I think the first thing I have to do is brag on our players. They handled it very well. It was very disappointing. We come in earlier than most everybody else because of when we start school. And our first day that we had our team meeting, about 20 minutes before our first team meeting, we found out that the season was canceled. So instead of us talking about practice and starting practice, we had to talk about the cancellation of the season. Our guys put their nose to the grindstone. They worked hard. We did not have a spring scrimmage like most other people. We had a fall practice session, a spring practice session, but our guys handled it very well. From a coaching standpoint, it's very difficult because you get in the process of wanting to get games and game plan for games, and our guys were exactly the same way. They weren't able to game plan and get ready to practice for games. So it was very difficult for an entire program to be able to do that, but we had the same thing as everybody else in this conference.
Coach, I know that communication was hard during the pandemic with athletes, but some of the coaches have mentioned that they felt like it helped their programs come closer together, and I would assume that you would probably echo that sentiment in some way.
Well, I think it did. We had a few meetings where we just let guys get on there and talk, and we had some team meetings at the time that we were in quarantine. Some racial diversity things were going on across the country. So we were able to get on there and talk about those as a team. And I think it helped us grow together. We were able to get as individual position groups and talk as well. So although we weren't exactly face-to-face, we were able to get on there and do a lot of Zoom calls and be able to communicate and talk and stay in touch with everybody, which I think was very beneficial for us.
Coach, let's talk about the upcoming season. I know that you and probably your guys are chomping at the bits to get back on the football field, and that's probably putting it mildly. How excited are you guys to see something other than a white helmet across the field on September 2nd when you take on Carson Newman?
Well, there's no question. Our guys are ready for this. It's been 22 months since we played our last game and had an opportunity to compete against another institution. So for us, getting into the grind of the fall camp and preparing for a season is something that we as coaches are very excited about, but I think our players are extremely excited about, and just talking to people in the community, I think they're extremely excited about. So it'll be good to get back into the routine of having college football, especially in our conference, in the Gulf South Conference.
And then obviously the next week, you guys get to play at home, and it's been a long time since you've done that. I know one of the things you mentioned to me was the facilities and how great your facilities are. Even I've seen on Twitter recently they're upgrading your weight room. But how excited are you guys to strap it up in front of your home fans to, hear the noise in Carrollton?
Well, to be able to play in University Stadium at Ray Lynn Field is something special. And everybody that has had an opportunity to play, former West Georgia players that have an opportunity to play there will tell you that. It's a unique experience just because of the way it looks. And it's exciting for us to be able to finally play games. We thought at one time we were going to have a turf field, but we're going to continue to stay on grass, and I think our guys like that. But more importantly, we get an opportunity to play in front of our home crowd again, and I think that's what our guys are most excited about.
Now, the next thing that, in your schedule is the beginning of Gulf South Conference play. And each one of these coaches, you guys have all said the same thing. It's one of the best football conferences in the country, if not the best. You get the unenviable task of playing an extra game inside the Gulf South Conference this year. However, though you're playing it at home, But you start off Gulf South Conference play with Delta State. Talk to me about that first game inside the conference.
Well, a lot of people ask me, what do you feel about starting off with Delta State? Well, it doesn't matter who you start off with. You're starting off with a formidable opponent if you're playing somebody in the Gulf South. But it is, you kind of find out right from the get-go, because Delta, I'm sure, is going to be one of the top teams in the conference. Once again, they're well coached. They got a lot of great athletes. So we find out kind of what we're made of in a hurry after we get through with our first two out-of-conference games. The fortunate thing for us, like you mentioned, we get to play Delta State twice in 1 year. That's good and that's bad. It's good because we get to play them at home twice, but we have to play Delta State twice.
As I opined in our conversation last week in preparation for this, I believe that you guys have one of the toughest schedules in the conference this year, having to go on the road and play at West Florida, at Valdosta State. How do you get your guys ready? You mentioned it's a younger group that you're looking to build on. How do you get your guys ready?
Well, obviously we rely a lot on the older guys that have made the trip to Pensacola and made the trip to Valdosta State. There's both hostile environments. It's great atmosphere when you go play at those stadiums. So we'll rely a lot on our older guys, and of course I've been there, and hopefully I'll do a good job of trying to prepare those guys of what's going to happen, what's going to take place. But ultimately it's football. It comes down to tackling and throwing and catching and running and blocking and doing all those things. If we can just rely on our fundamentals, that's going to be the thing that hopefully we're going to carry from week to week and give us an opportunity to win football games.
With a young team, a team that you're continuing to work and get seasoning, what does success look like for West Georgia this year?
Well, we have to have success early, I think. We got to have some confidence. We're playing a very tough opponent with Carson Newman right off the bat that does something totally different offensively that we're not going to see all year long. And then coming back and playing at home against Morehouse, who's another good football team, and then getting into the conference. Those first three games, I think, are going to be very critical for us to be able to get those young guys some experience, but also have some positive experience going out there, making some big plays. We know there's going to be positive and negative plays that go out through the game. We have to have more positive plays that early on, just to give our guys some confidence.
Let's talk returning players on this squad. I think of a running back, Christian Royalston. Talk to me about the role he's going to have to play on offense, especially with what will more than likely be a newer quarterback.
Well, it will be. And Christian had an outstanding freshman year, true freshman year. And then, unfortunately, in 2019, the third play of the season, broke his foot and was out the rest of the year. So he's another guy that's really been out for 2 years. But we're really counting heavily on him to provide a lot of leadership, even though he's only had 1 year of experience. Made a lot of big plays for us as a true freshman, and we look forward to seeing that again. Then you move up front, with our offensive line. Ben Walters is a guy who's been there for now will end up being a 6th year from a redshirt year, a COVID year. He will be a 6th-year senior coming back and playing on that offensive line, playing with a lot of young guys. We really rely a lot from an experience standpoint with him. And then all across the board offensively, it is going to be a lot of new faces and a lot of faces that people haven't heard too much about.
At the wide receiver position, though, a returner LaPerrion Perry out there. Talk to me about the role he'll play this year.
Well, he's been a great kick returner for us and also a very good wide receiver. Unfortunately, in our spring game, broke his leg. So he's doing a lot of rehab. So hopefully he's going to be back to full strength by the time we start practice. I don't think he's going to be ready to go full out at practice, but hopefully by September when we start against Carson Newman, he's going to be ready to go. But we'll rely heavily on him in our special team game and also from the standpoint of making plays for us offensively.
Let's flip sides of the ball now and look at defense. And it starts up front at the defensive line position. DeAndre Gardenhire up front. Talk to me about him really anchoring that defensive line this season.
Well, he's a guy that's an outstanding pass rusher, and he brings great speed and agility to that defensive end position. We really need him to have an outstanding year. As much as people throw in this league, he's going to have to be a guy that puts a lot of pressure on our quarterback. So we look forward to him having the years the year that he's had from the previous years of being able to play and make those big plays for us.
Who are some other players that we should be looking out for on defense?
Shaheen O'Neal is a defensive tackle, I think, had an outstanding year last year, especially the end of the year. I say last year, 2019, It's the last time we played. Had an outstanding year. Look forward to him. Marzavian Dix is a guy who's been in the program now for 3 years. We look forward to him having a great year. Really excited about one of our linebackers who redshirted in 2019, was projected to be a starter last year before we were able to play, as Jordan Davis. He's a good linebacker, in the box linebacker, a very good tackler, reads things very well. His high school teammate, Nasir Curry Sudler, is probably our best defensive player coming out of spring from this past year. He's a guy that's a dynamic player, reads things very well, runs very well, is a very high motor type guy. Amazingly, those two guys played on a state championship team in 2018 together, and now they'll be playing together on our defensive side.
That's a neat thing.
It is a neat thing. And then secondary-wise, MJ Latimer's coming back, Mike Miller's coming back in our secondary. Both of those guys have played a lot of football for us. Mike will be a senior, so we'll rely on him from a leadership standpoint. But MJ Latimer is a guy that roams the field very well. Is a very good tackler. Look forward to him coming downhill and making some big plays.
Let's talk top newcomers, and I know one of them is going to probably be at a prime position. I look at Ben Whitlock at the quarterback position. Talk to me about the challenges that that may present, but also the benefits of that.
Well, Ben was a true freshman for us in 2020 in the COVID year, and kind of learned our offense when we went through fall practice. And coming into the spring, you could see him taking tremendous strides and getting better and better and better. So he and Garrett Bass will be in a heck of a battle there to start the season, who's going to be the starter. But either one of those guys that we put out there, we feel very confident with. But Ben's a guy that you can look back in 4 years and say, man, that guy's a 4-year starter and doing a lot of great things for the University of West Georgia, which we hope he is.
Now look outside, wide receiver Mashane Slade, another player that could play a big role this season. Talk to me about the role he could play.
Well, extremely hard worker. I love his work ethic. He's a guy that has come in and accepted a leadership role, pushes our guys, pushes a lot of young guys from the wide receiver standpoint. But he's a dynamic player. He's got great speed. He's got great hands. He's tough. He can go over the middle and make big catches. He can take screens and make big plays out of screens. But he's also a guy that you can throw the ball deep to. So there's a lot of facets that he's going to bring, and we're going to find ways to get him the football, and hopefully he's going to be able to be one of those guys that we can rely on when we need a big play. Look to Mashane to see him make those plays.
It sounds like there's a lot of exciting things to come this season for West Georgia football. Coach, let's round this out. Give me your best pitch. There's probably prospective student athletes that will watch this. Why should they go to West Georgia?
Well, it's a very good campus. Obviously, it's big enough that you can kind of not be packed in everywhere that you go, but it's close enough where you can walk across the campus, meet a lot of people. From an athletic standpoint, our facilities are unbelievable. We have a beautiful stadium. We just did our team room. We just did our weight room floor. We're putting in, at the end of this season, a new turf field. There's a lot of positive things that are going. Our new president, Dr. Brendan Kelly, has brought a tremendous amount of excitement, not only to the coaches, but to the student athletes. And we just got a new athletic director, Jason Carmichael. He's doing the same thing. Both of those guys together are taking our athletic program in a new direction, and it's exciting to see. And I think if you talk to our players, not only football, but all the other sports, you can see the excitement that they're generating. And so it's a great time to be at the University of West Georgia.
Coach, well, thank you so much for waiting around as we went through the other coaches, but for taking some time to talk West Georgia football. I'm personally excited to see what you guys are able to accomplish. You've heard from 8 coaches today, 8 coaches from very talented teams in the Gulf South Conference, one of the best, if not the best, Division II football conference in the country. And I want to thank all of them for joining us. But up next, we will have Matt Wilson, the commissioner of the Gulf South Conference, who will join us to talk about the Gulf South Conference as a whole and his excitement for getting back on the playing field. Coach, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to sit down.
Thank you for your time.
53 national championships. More than 600 annual graduates. Thousands of lives changed. The Gulf South Conference.
As we come back here inside the UAB Hilton here in Birmingham, joined by Gulf South Commissioner Matt Wilson. Matt, thanks for taking some time out of your day to join us.
Oh, I appreciate you leading us through this. This has been a great day for us.
It's been a great day, a long day, 8 coaches so far, but excited to talk with you. And for those of you not familiar with Matt's work at the Gulf South Conference, he's entering his 8th season. As we joked a few moments ago, it feels like it was just yesterday.
That's right.
He spent 9 years at the A-Sun Conference in Atlanta prior to his time here. Matt, exciting times in the Gulf South Conference, but before we look at 2021, let's look back to 2019, that year in review. I think there was a team in your conference that won a national championship in football.
Well, it happens so frequently, it's hard to remember. But yeah, a great year finish for West Florida there. Coming off Valdosta State's national championship and a couple appearances by GSC teams prior to that. It's a really high bar and expectation our coaches have put out there for us, and it's a clear distinction and clear notice that our schools are investing. They're investing wisely and strategically, and then the student athletes are performing under great coaches in great situations. So it's a real credit to all of our schools and their commitment to the sport that we're having that kind of success.
You've obviously had so much momentum building up. The last 2 national champions come out of the Gulf South Conference, and then 2020 hits, and we all know what happened there. Obviously, COVID presented some challenges, but looking ahead now to 2021, what type of challenges do you think that the pandemic could still bring about in the Division II schedule?
Yeah, I think there's challenges and there's opportunities. So the challenges clearly, as we see a rise throughout July and into August of cases, what does that impact as far as people participating for student athletes? Health and wellness, those sort of challenges are going to be there. What does that mean for revenue opportunities and folks going to school in virtual class and in-person class? The same things that we had hoped we wouldn't have to discuss this fall are going to be things we're going to have to discuss again. And that's okay. But there's also some opportunities. We have really 3 key things that we were looking to accomplish in this post-pandemic era, at least initially. We want to play as safely as we can. And that's whether it's a spectator or a participant. We are committed to playing. We think there's value to sport in our community, value to sport for our student athletes, for our institutions. And thirdly, we're committed to providing a path of competition for individuals, no matter how they decide to handle the vaccine, whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated. Now, will those be 2 different paths? Almost certainly. We won't know. Our guidance won't come out until a little later in August. But I think it's safe to think that the path will see a set of criteria for those that have chosen to be vaccinated, and this is your path to competition, and then a set of criteria for unvaccinated, and it will likely include some testing element for unvaccinated folks and some other things that they may have to choose to do to participate. But again, we want to provide a clear path for competition for those folks, regardless of how they decide to handle that personal decision.
I'm sure you're personally excited for the 2021 football season. Who wouldn't be at this point after not having it in 2021? But some exciting times, some changes that we will see. And one of the biggest is a deal that the Gulf South Conference signed with Flow Sports to broadcast all of the football games in the conference and added revenue opportunity for the conference.
It's a continued paradigm shift. We have been talking about this since late in my tenure at the A-Sun. So for a decade almost, this has been something that we know is coming. The folks are going to consume more media on mobile devices and through app-based distributors than they are by turning on their cable or their satellite television. And we think that partnering with Flow Sports, who was one of the very early originators in the space of video content delivered in this method, that it's going to be a real boon for our folks. So it's going to be some changes, right? Because we're behind a paywall. So there's a subscription fee opportunity, but folks are going to see a lot more content. There's going to be a weekly GSC football show. There's going to be additional content that our partners at Flow Sports help provide and create for us, and that's going to be great. All of the GSC games, if a GSC team is playing a home game, all those games are going to be on there. Fans will have great access to a variety of sports at a variety of levels. We're not alone in this. The Colonial Athletic Association and Division I Conference has partnered with Flow Sports. The Big East has partnered. with Flow Sports as well. So we're not alone in this. We're excited about the opportunities it presents for us, and it'll just take a little bit of time to get our fans used to it and for us to continue to make it as good a product as we can. But our institutions are committed, and our office is committed, and Flow Sports is committed. I think it's going to be great for us.
For those fans that are getting ready for this 2021 season, where can they find some information about this Flow Sports deal and how to get signed up, how to get ready for that first game that's going to take place in just a couple weeks?
Sure, we're going to have more information on our website at gscsports.org. Flow Sports will also have a link there, flowsports.tv/Gulf South, and folks can sign up right there, get the information they need, and we encourage them to be there and do that. So it's going to be really, really good. I hope that we do a great job of educating them. I hope the fan base helps us make this as good a product as it can be.
Exciting day here in Birmingham. Great talking to all these coaches and Commissioner Matt Wilson. Thank you so much for your time today. But a great time here in Birmingham. Some great hosts here at the UAB Hilton in Birmingham, and looking forward to football season here in 2021. So for the last time from the UAB Hilton here in Birmingham, we say so long and looking forward to getting football season underway.